seems as if you can't go through.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Because God specializes in things that it seems impossible.
Impossible.
Over and done with when we give it over. Hallelujah. But he's the same God who called for Lazarus.
Yes.
Oh God, he said, come forth.
Come forth. Come forth.
That's the kind of God we prove
Come
when we are
forth.
praying to tonight.
Come
We
forth.
believe you, Jesus,
Come
that you're
forth.
gonna roll the waters by tonight. Roll the sea away tonight. The sea of covetousness. The sea of kind of tongues. Mando shata. The sea of forgetfulness.
Yes.
We ask that you roll, God, and allow this program to flow fluently
Yes.
in the name of Jesus. Oh my God, come before your son,
Yes,
Jesus.
Lord.
Come before your son.
Yes, Lord.
Help him to do the work that you have placed upon his life.
Yes, Lord.
And God, I pray for a blood coverage and that no weapon that bomb against him, that circulate around him, will
Yes,
be able
Lord.
to prosper. I break it down.
Break it,
even
break
now
it, break it,
over
break it,
and I
break it.
send back. Mando shianda ya basiondo robo seke mama kasa robo sende mando shiekete mama saya. In the name of Jesus, lift your hands, son. Give praise.
Hallelujah. 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 Yes, Lord.
The presence of Almighty God is all around you. Mando shata. So require you dead. But God send back up. Mando shata.
Hallelujah.
Mando shianda ya basia. Maku shete mama
Yes,
saya.
Lord.
In the name of Jesus, life over death tonight. God Almighty, touch his lips.
Hallelujah.
One more time. Do for those on this program what they cannot do for themselves. God Almighty, in the name of Jesus, let your blood coverage continue to take a toll. And God, for the guests that will be coming on tonight,
Yes.
help him not to keep back anything.
No, withhold nothing. Withhold
Mando
nothing.
shata. Help him not to withhold nothing.
Yes.
Come before him, Jesus. Do your
Hallelujah.
work for them, Jesus.
Yes, Lord.
Christ of Nazareth, as we give you the glory for each and every one here tonight. And I tell you thanks.
In Jesus' name.
God, because God have a blessing, my son, waiting for you. Hallelujah. If you do all the things that he asked you to do, you're a faithful son in the eyes of God. And I know that he is going to reward you tonight. Cover each and every one here tonight, Lord, under your blood. Grant us a peace that passes all understanding. And do it again, Jesus, as we honor you now. And we give you the glory.
Hallelujah.
The rest of this program into your hands and tell you thanks. It is done. Hallelujah. It is done. Every wavering spirit tonight, back up in the name of Jesus. Every witchcraft spirit tonight, back up. Every peeping spirit tonight, back up. Mando,
Yes, Lord.
this is gonna be a comeback.
Hallelujah.
From every setback tonight, God is about to deliver somebody tonight.
Yes.
Anyway, Jesus, deliver somebody from that knife tonight. Deliver somebody from that gun tonight.
Hallelujah.
In the atmospheric, we give us the glory. Hallelujah.
Yes.
It is done because earth has no sorrows. That heaven cannot heal.
Hallelujah.
Tonight, as we give you the glory and tell you thanks, it is done in Jesus' name.
Hallelujah.
God bless your son.
Bless you, mommy. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, mommy.
God bless you. God bless you.
Hallelujah.
I said, lift your hand. Just lift your hand.
Yes.
Just lift your hands. Just get the out of that chair and just lift your hand.
Yes. Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory today is mine.
Hallelujah. Victory is yours.
Victory.
Victory is yours.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Satan, to get thee behind. Victory today is mine.
Happiness is yours. Hallelujah. Happiness is yours.
Happiness.
Tonight.
Yes, Mama.
We are gonna taste it.
To get thee behind.
Because happiness
Today is mine.
Hold on to your victory.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. All right, Mommy, bless you. Bless you, my mother. One thing about me, you know, when the enemies them coming like a flood, prayer warriors from north, south, east, and west. The prayers when me get and this a platform get. This are coming sometimes. Sometimes no wonder how them really think they can come after me. I'm going to say this to you. Today, this morning, the person is actually watching. Her family is watching. When I say this to you all, I will do nothing to harm no one. And the same mouth or tongue that speaks life can equally speak death. And my platform will only be used to speak life, truth, justice, fairness, transparency, accountability, and equity. Like up the live, people. Remember to click the live, like up the live, share the live, because tonight I'm going to be going some places. What a bangarang going with funeral homes. I'm not going to stay on funeral homes. I am just saying, I saw the headlines. I listened to be on the headlines this evening. And apparently there are many unregulated funeral homes in Jamaica. And me says so Jamaica. And me says so. What a bangarang in a Jamaica. So many unregulated funeral homes. It appears that Partner Draw TV has once again opened a can of worms. Apparently, I have opened a can of worms. But I'm giving notice tomorrow night. Funeral homes will be probed. I am not going to Garden of Paradise. I'm going to other places. Remember, Fix Bailey said something about Old Harbour. Remember, funeral homes do exist in Old Harbour as well. We need to know how many funeral homes are registered in Jamaica, how many are regulated, how many are paying the regulatory fees, how many are registered if they are paying the regulatory fees. My students, we're going to go there, we're going to question, we're going to probe it. Many of them don't want us to go there. But what a web. What a web we weave. What a web we weave. Jamaica, what a web we weave. Jamaica and the diaspora. What a web. My investigators are doing some very solid investigations. Is it a case that police officers in Old Harbour actually own funeral homes? Mighty God. Ha ha! Fix Bailey was giving us hints, but we have not been following up on them. And then Fix Bailey said there is a strong possibility, if, correct me if I'm wrong, but allegedly he said there is a case that we probably not find Donnelly's. Nobody is to call me. Nobody is to call me. Nobody's to call me. Tonight I'm having an exclusive. And I'm going by my classrooms. No one is to call in devotional time. Devotion happening now, no calls. You see how my platform look nice tonight. To them, I cuss Wayne, you know. To them, I Wayne put on big war, you know. But look how me look nice and clean. Look how me look nice and clean. I look like international news. I soon look like me a cover from BBC and CNN. Lord, it don't look bad. Welcome to Partner Draw TV. My name is Andre Stevens, your host. Tonight, we're going to scope. Tonight, we're going to zoom. Tonight, Wayne and Ricky did this. Wayne and Ricky. Fix the light. Which light? The light in the background or the light on me? The light in the background, you said, teacher, fix the light. The light in the background. Okay. Press up the like since only 2,000 now. It better now? It seems me better now, right? Tonight, welcome. Tell me if it looks better. Wayne, message me and tell me if it's looking better. Like up the likes, students. Like up the likes. Like up the likes. Let me send out this to my people. Are looking better now, students? Tell me if I'm looking better now. All right, they say I'm looking better now. All right, sounding perfect, looking well? All right, good night again, my students. Tonight we're going to be scoping, we're going to be probing. Let me send this out and then I will have class. I will have to do my introduction tonight. Who's ready to hear my introduction? All right. Good night, Jamaica. Good night to the diaspora. Good night to everyone who is tuned in on this platform. I'm going to play one video before I start. Who wants to know what is happening? Let us go there. Tonight I play on the eve. Tonight, where is the video?
As children of the earth, the Accompong Maroons have filed a case against the government of Jamaica in the Supreme Court of Judicature to protect the ecology and the environment from further damage from mining. We've reached a monumental moment in history where the Maroons will remind the world that David can still beat Goliath in the 22nd century. The Accompong Maroons will remain an unconquerable nation. The case begins on July 12, 2022. We've retained a renowned team of legal experts, both locally and internationally. And we ask that each and every person that truly believes in the defense of the environment and the defense of the country to step forward and support this great movement. Etch your names with us in history as we defend Mother Earth and defend freedom. It is important that everyone on this archipelago makes.
Let me start it over, students. This is very interesting.
As children of the earth, the Accompong Maroons have filed a case against the government of Jamaica in the Supreme Court of Judicature to protect the ecology and the environment from further damage from mining. We've reached a monumental moment in history where the Maroons will remind the world that David can still beat Goliath in the 22nd century. The Accompong Maroons will remain an unconquerable nation. The case begins on July 12, 2022. We've retained a renowned team of legal experts, both locally and internationally. And we ask that each and every person that truly believes in the defense of the environment and the defense of the country to step forward and support this great movement. Etch your names with us in history as we defend Mother Earth and defend freedom. It is important that everyone on this archipelago makes a contribution towards this fight in preserving Coptic country. If you are a lover of nature, a protector of the environment, now is your chance to stand up for what is right. Send your support. Reach out to someone, challenge them to make that support. Coptic country needs your help. Remember your history. Remember your culture. Remember your divine connection to nature. Mining in Coptic country is not just a threat to us. It's a threat to us and our posterity, the born and the unborn. We ask you, stand up. Let's show the world today that we are kingdom, one family, behind a just cause in saving Coptic country, saving Jamaica.
Will,
as children of the
will David slay Goliath? Will, all right, no problem. I'm getting things right, students. Just give me some time. It's the first time. Give me some time. Okay? Will David slay Goliath? The mining that has been happening in Jamaica has exploited the natural resources and exploited the land for years, for decades. Rare earth elements have been taken from Jamaica. Aluminum, lithium. It's also alleged that even uranium is actually being taken out of Jamaica. Uranium, Jamaica. Uranium. If you know the powers of uranium, if you know the powers, lithium used Jamaica for electronic vehicles. Do your research. I've been researching for a few days. Lithium, uranium, aluminum, all of these rare earth elements are being exploited. And Jamaica and the lands, are we going to preserve our lands? Are we going to sustain the cockpit country? Or is Goliath going to slay? Or will David slay Goliath? Who will slay Goliath? Who is going to slay Goliath, my students? That's the discussion tonight. That's the discussion tonight, my students. Who is going to slay Goliath? want to know, Jamaica. I want to know something. The Maroons have been around for decades. 284 years they have signed a treaty that have given them sovereignty to the lands. Surprisingly, Jamaica, the sovereignty of the Maroons have always been recognized for years by successive governments. The Maroons have had their sovereignty for years. No one has ever challenged the Maroons and the sovereignty of the Maroons until recently. The Wholeness Administration, Jamaica. The administration of the Wholeness government has made it abundantly clear that they no longer see the sovereignty or observe the sovereignty of the Maroons. Isn't that alarming? Bustamante realized the sovereignty of the Maroons. Shearer realized the sovereignty of the Maroons. Stangster realized and respected the sovereignty of the Maroons. Manley recognized the sovereignty of the Maroons. Siaga respected the sovereignty of the Maroons. The Black Prince Percival James Patterson respected the sovereignty of the Maroons. Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller and Bruce Golding realized and respected the sovereignty of the Maroons. What makes Andrew Holness special? Why does this government under Andrew Holness fail to respect the sovereignty of the Maroons headed by Chief Curry? That's something we're going to probe tonight. But then I want to ask, successive colonels in the Accompong have been there, but of late, Chief Curry has been under attack internally and externally in Maroon Town. Are you telling me that these attacks, can it be said that these attacks are from Goliath? Or is it a case that the people of Maroon Town don't want Chief Curry? We need those answers tonight. One, why doesn't this Prime Minister respect the sovereignty of the Maroons? He's the only Prime Minister in history that has never respected the sovereignty of the Maroons. He has gone even as far as to say there's only one sovereign state. And that sovereign state is what? The government of Jamaica. But tonight, my students, we're going to go there. We're going to go there. We're going to press. I have documentations that show millions of US dollars. Millions of US dollars that were sent to the Accompong. We want to know about the Accompong Bank. The looming money, the solar bank that was to be set up in the Accompong. The millions of US dollars. Is it that a case that previous colonels have exploited the resources of Maroon for their personal benefits? Like up this live tonight, I'm going to be joined by the ambassador of the Maroon Accompong Town. Let me get the correct name. Sorry about that, my students are still learning. Give me some time, give me some time, give me some time. Tonight I'm going to be joined by Anu Tafari Zion L, the Accompong Maroon ambassador. Let me tell him to come on now. Wayne, get the ambassador to come on and join the live now. Yeah, I need to tell him to go and click on the link and come on now. Tonight we're going to probe. Let me see if he has joined. Okay. Whoa. When I'm joined the class, Lord Jesus, you don't have to see me with me. Enter. Oh, he has entered. Oh, he has entered. Ambassador, are you there? Tonight we're having diplomatic relations, so we're first carrying the ambassador of the Accompong. What is happening? Exit and come back, ambassador. Exit and come back. Wayne, I don't know why I'm not seeing him. Ambassador, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, Andre. How are you? I'm not seeing you, but I'm not here. I'm hearing you, but not seeing you.
Well, I'm seeing you.
All right. Okay. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yes. Are Jamaicans seeing him? When are the people seeing the ambassador? When? Oh, yes, they're seeing you. They're seeing you. So, Ambassador,
right,
welcome to the program tonight. So, we're here on Partner Draw TV. Tell us what is really happening in the Accompong presently. But you see, as though in the Accompong, the crickets are loud.
Well, I'm in the hills. So yes, thank you for having me. So at this present moment, as you would have played that documentary, well, you know, a preview to the documentary that we're having regarding the case that we currently have filed in the Supreme Court of Judicature regarding the titleship of Cockpit Country due to certain encroachments and just, you know, the mining leases that would have been granted without consultation from the Maroons. This is not just a fight that started with Chief Richard Curry and, you know, his administration. This has been something that has been in prior times that has been invoked. There were massive protests that would have happened both locally and some internationally in front of embassies. So, you know, and of course, Chief Richard Curry is just a successor to other deputy colonels or colonels that would have made and voiced the same opinion. Of course, I would have made note and reference back to even Colonel Petty and Chief Petty that would have, I believe in 2007, would have declared that, you know, any mining in Cockpit Country would have been a gross violation to the treaty that the Maroons have with the British Crown.
So what treaty? Tell the world, what treaty are you speaking of? What treaty binds the Maroons? What treaty makes the Maroons?
Yes.
What treaty makes the Maroons so unique and special?
Yes, well, great question. Thank you. So the treaty that we are referencing is the Maroon Treaty of 1738, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the British Crown. This treaty would have been signed after 84 plus years of war. And this is, of course, was even after we would have fought the Spanish, who would have, you know, transferred, you know, their land rights to the British. So we would have come out of a very long war. So at that point, when King George would have, you know, sent his plenipotentiaries, you know, to Accompong, to sit and wave the white flag and sign a blood oath, a treaty of peace and friendship to cease all war. Article 1 of said treaty, says that all hostility shall cease forever. It was the very first article, because the Maroons at that time, through the guerrilla warfare, would have ensured that commerce across the island was completely disrupted. Of course, anybody who knows their history would have known that tobacco and sugarcane would have been a massive jewel of the British crown at that time, that was bringing massive wealth to their system. The Maroons resisted war, resisted slavery, at all costs, to know that we were going to be a free people, and that freedom was recorded in Article 2 of said treaty, that says that the Maroon people and their posterity shall forever be in a perfect state of freedom and liberty. So when we construe those terminologies, we understand that from one sovereign nation, meaning the British Crown, the British Empire, to another free people who were identified, that treaty is there. So that is the treaty that we're referencing. Now, how is it brought down into modern day legislation under the 1962 Ordering Council Constitution of Jamaica? That's the very important question that has been asked by scholars and many attorneys, but this administration has been able to articulate it finally and in just and right time. So under clause 4 of the Constitution of Jamaica, if anybody wants to go and do their research, you will see that this is something called the savings clause. And the British Crown, in giving an independent government through the charter under the Ordering Council, Schedule 2 of Her Majesty's charter, that Jamaica, sorry, I'm having a little disruption right here. Yeah, that Jamaica now would have an article in the Constitution that allows the Crown to say that all engagements and prior agreements would still be enforced, unless the Crown, who has the authority, would be able to say that this agreement is now null and void. So therefore, no Parliament can just come and void a treaty if the Crown is a signatory to said document. Now, at this point in time, if clause 4 is a constitutionally expressed article whereby all officials have taken an oath of office under said constitution, then the treaty is well and enforced, and that was reaffirmed by the British High Commissioner not once but twice, both in 2019 and 2020, in which he would have said that the treaty still remains in force today, and it is now incumbent on the government of Jamaica, and the responsibility is transferred to the government of Jamaica. So
you are saying that successive governments, successive administrations have recognized the sovereignty of the Maroons?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe, and I would want to say that in a lot of my readings, I would say at some point prior to Chief Richard Curry ascendancy to Chief Maroon Chief of Accompong and his administration being installed, that the Andrew Holness administration at one point did recognize the sovereignty, but I believe now it's more style that it was a cultural recognition. I'm not really sure how we.
So you're saying it's a cultural recognition, but not an economical and environmental recognition?
Well, I believe that is what the posture would be trying to be relayed to us. But, and we're trying to understand that, because any engagement that we, Accompong would have had with the government of Jamaica was done and under the name styled the sovereign state of Accompong. Further to that, as I said, the British High Commissioner would have ventured to Accompong representing the British Crown, Her Majesty, and made certain direct statements as a direct official of the Crown. Those words were not, ambiguous. They were very straightforward.
So, with all that is happening in the Accompong, I'm getting straight to the point.
Yes.
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is still on the throne, right?
Yeah, she's still the head of state of Jamaica, correct.
So why hasn't the Accompong, the chief, made audience with the Queen and not necessarily the Prime Minister of Jamaica, so that the Queen can intervene on the interest of the lands that are owned to Jamaica?
Right. Good question. So again, according to the Constitution of Jamaica, the responsibility would therefore be with the current 1962 government of Jamaica to handle these agreements. This is exactly how the family of nations understand agreements and treaty relations. This is what a responsible government is supposed to look like. Unfortunately, as it relates to the current government and the relationship with the Maroons and the current government, there is some misunderstanding. And if you allow me the time to explain what I believe the misunderstanding
I want to know those. I'm going to ask you one question that is going to press forward.
Yes.
Is the misunderstanding hostile? Is the present government hostile to the present leadership of the Maroon Town? Yes or no?
I would say the hostility is more in a verbal way at this time. We haven't seen any direct posture of hostility from any authorities, more than just verbal, threats and posture of that nature. So we would just have to continue with the legal front and then, continue on our defense, whatever we can do within the legal front. But when I say that the misunderstanding, I want to bring some clarity to that. The misunderstanding, the misunderstanding, I believe, is that there is, some form of rhetoric or propaganda that is being spurred out there that, the current Maroon administration and Chief Richard Curry is trying to divide the country, is trying to divide the island, is trying to overthrow the current Andrew Holness administration. And that is not true. I would like to take the moment to clarify that unequivocally, that is rubbish.
So you're saying that Chief Colonel Richard Curry has no intention, no intent, no interest, no objective to overthrow the Andrew Holness as the ambassador for the Accompong. Are you saying that the chief has no intention of overthrowing the present Andrew Holness government?
That is correct. That is
correct. Are you sure about that?
I am absolutely sure about that.
You are Ambassador Anu. Are you sure about that?
Yes, because the posture of trying to overthrow a government without first having any diplomacy or anything, we have to have diplomacy. We're not trying to say that we're trying to engage in any war. I mean, we have been at peace for almost 300 years on this island. The Maroons know exactly what war is. It's within our blood. We are who our ancestors were, since immemorial times. So, because we know of war, we actually know how to respect peace. And we are going to continue to try to, to enforce diplomacy, enforce conversations. When you look around the world at this time, there's a lot of unrest. There's war almost everywhere. Unity is what brings strength, and the Accompong Maroons are trying. This administration is forging unity in every aspect every day. But of course, we do find that, when righteous people are doing, good work, that you will find a fight, but with faith, we understand that fight only makes a soldier stronger.
Mm-hmm. So, are you saying that presently the Maroon administration is deploying diplomacy?
Yes, diplomacy. If
diplomacy doesn't work, are you saying that you will find other alternatives to solve this issue surrounding the Maroon Town?
Well, currently other alternatives are actually in force, which we actually see the court case going on. So if anybody wants to construe, war of a nature, David versus Goliath, we're doing it in the modern day, ring, which is in the courtroom. So
you're saying that, you're carrying the government of Jamaica to court?
Correct.
So you have a class action against the government of Jamaica?
Well, currently the full Maroon Council for the Sovereign State of Accompong, along with Chief Richard Curry within his office and his fiduciary duty as successor to Captain Kodjo, is within his power and his treaty rights to invoke this case and this lawsuit, even within the venue of Jamaica, as I just said. The treaty, even though it's an international document which is recognized within the family of nations and in the United Nations, locally here, as I said, the British Crown, and this is very key, the British Crown is still the head of state in Jamaica. So
what are you going to do? Because you're pressing on the matter that the British Crown is still the head of state, right?
Right. No, yeah, but this is the reason why
what are you going to
saying,
do? I'm going to press further because this is a very good counteraction. What are you going to do when Jamaica becomes a republic? And we're no longer answerable to the Queen. So would it be said that your treaty is null and void when Jamaica becomes an independent republic outside of the ambits of the United Kingdom? What is your response to that?
Right. And my response to that is pay attention to the timing of the filing of the lawsuit.
Pay attention to the timing of the filing of the lawsuit.
Correct. So right now, we have brought a claim under the current laws of Jamaica right now. So moving forward, as per the law, this matter has to be settled right now. This is a matter that is pending in the current court, and if we want to go, deeper into the books of Jamaica having to become a republic, they would have to find, an appellate court to anchor in order to place that in their new republic constitution. I believe that will take some time. Also, they will have to have a referendum. That will take some time. The calls for a republic are not new. They have come for a very long time. Of course, we would want to have a free island. Of course, everyone should feel that sense of freedom and knowing that they have sovereignty and live within a democratic society that, with officials that uphold the law and the rule of law and the strict letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, right? So whenever we have that day, we will see what, who is in government at that time and who are our officials, and hopefully Jamaica will be born a new day. Not this, not the society that we're currently living in right now, where we see a high murder rate, we see women disappearing, we see that over 90% of the island is not in alliance and agreement with the current infrastructure to fight crime. These are not things that are coming from Anu L and Chief Richard Corey and the Accompong Maroons only. This is something that is island wide. So while Jamaica face a problem with crime, the Accompong Maroons, which is the safest place in Jamaica, that over 300 years, if you look at our statistic, when somebody actually says, is this place in Jamaica, and we say yes, it's because they see that we have been able to keep peace. And why? It's because of our cultural aspect and our adherence to the treaty and our understanding of the treaty.
But you speak of peace. You speak of peace. You say you just said, Ambassador, that you have been able to hold the peace in the Accompong for years. But of late, Ambassador, we have heard of wars and rumors of wars. We have heard of upheavals happening within the Accompong. We have heard of threats of the colonel. We have heard allegations of men being accosted. We have heard, Ambassador, of so many issues of violence. We have seen even videos of the chief having men ambushing police. It is alleged. So I want to know, if you say that it's the safest place in Jamaica, we have seen an upsurge of violence in the Accompong. What is the cause of that?
Well, violence would have to say that someone was recently hurt, and I'm not aware of anybody being recently hurt. Property damage was done to Accompong. And of course, that was reported to the police. Many other incidents were reported to the police. But of course, this is the gray area. Those forces that be would play the game to say that if, Chief Richard Corey and his administration seek help, or let's say a joint operation, and this is nothing different from if the United States wanted to come in, to try and extradite someone or to try and aid them in an investigation because there's a Jamaican that is, in the territory that is hiding away from the United States jurisdiction, that the US would be able, through dialogue and proper partnership, contact the Jamaica authorities, and Jamaica authorities would oblige. Of course, this is what we're trying to express.
I love where you're going. Ambassador.
Yes, sir.
Can you affirm, deny? Can you affirm or deny that in successive years, recent years, known criminals have used their Accompong as a hiding spot? Yes or no?
Well, in successive governments, Colonel Ferron Williams was a former police, and he would actually use the police to enforce the rule of law in Accompong, and that was the relationship at the time. So I am not aware of anyone using Accompong as a base or a hiding place for any illicit activity, because that would be under that previous administration, and I'm pretty sure the police would want to say that they had a great reputation.
I want to know. So you're saying no?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. No.
You are not aware?
Mm-mm.
I'm going to give you some names, and I want to ask you. So you said you're not aware, Ambassador Annie.
You're talking about what kind of activities? Yeah, I mean, you have to make me aware, other than the bank that we're currently having an issue with, the so-called bank, that is being investigated.
I'm talking about illegal activities in terms of banking transfers, looming monies.
Yes, that's what you're talking about. Okay,
yes,
that's what you meant. Like, I thought you were
white-collar criminality. White-collar criminality.
I thought you were making reference more to, maybe murderers trying to run to seek safe haven. I thought that was.
No, I'm not talking about murderers, hardcore criminals. I'm talking about white-collar criminals. Are white-collar criminals hiding in their Accompong?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure if you have been made aware of, certain things that have been circulating regard to a so-called bank that was trying to be established in the Accompong territory.
What you said was trying to be repeat that, Ambassador. I'm very melodramatic. That's my personality. But I want you to repeat. You say you're doing banking in the Accompong?
Well, banking would have started or tried to have, be established prior to the Chief Curry administration. So under the Ferron Williams administration, going back as far as 2014.
Who is Ferron? So before we get up, can you tell me the chief? Who is Ferron Williams? This name has been circulating quite frequently. Who is Ferron Williams?
Chief Ferron Williams was the former chief of Accompong. He would have lost the election as of recent of last year, February 2021, where he tried to run for a third term. So he had 2 terms in Accompong, and there were issues around actually a re-election being called. There was no election at the time being called after his second term, because each colonel gets 5 years. So after his second term, doing a full 2 years, there were issues, and the people were calling for an election. The people did finally get their election, and this is the interesting part. There had to be mediation. Again, I talk about, this informal relationship, meaning nothing really set in stone on paper. So during that time, there would have been calls for the Ombudsman of Jamaica to intervene to try and help as a mediator as to the issue that was going on in Accompong.
You're saying you called on the political ombudsman to intervene?
At that point in time, yes.
But I'm going to ask you, if you have your sovereignty, why are you going to be calling on the government of Jamaica's political ombudsman?
And that is completely correct. So prior, as I said,
as a sovereign nation, you need to have your own government, and as a sovereign nation, you need to have all key functionaries. So if you're going to be calling on a political ombudsman for another state, it means that your sovereignty is not intact.
Correct. So again, this was prior to Chief Richard Curry being installed as chief. All right, that we need to make that absolutely clear. Now, the issue is that we realize that the sovereignty that Kojo and our ancestors would have fought for as a free people is expressed within that document would have been diluted and would have somehow started to become amalgamated again with the British jurisdiction. And the point of fact here is that there is no document or no proof that can show that the Maroons ceded back any land or that status back into the British jurisdiction, and that cannot be shown, hence why we're even having this court case. So what I am saying is we have to look at some of these interactions with the government of Jamaica in a sorts of like a joint venture of sorts or a partnership. If we're having problems and we do not have the infrastructure, yet we do have this jurisdictional status, this territorial status, if you want to call it, this privilege, right? As I said very clearly, it's an informal relationship that we currently have with the government Jamaica, and Chief Richard Curry and our administration with the full Maroon Council have been trying and imploring that a formal relationship needs to be had, especially with what you were saying earlier with if we are moving forward as an island, as a people, together as brothers and sisters, as we're saying, out of many one people, or with kinda, meaning one family, which came prior to the matter out of many one people, right? So if we're going to look at this relationship, you have this mother who came almost 300 years ago, and then you have, this son or daughter that was born 1962. In all due respect, we're just dealing with the facts. History and law are not mutually exclusive, is what is happening, so that we as a people can understand what is going on as a society, as a body politic, correct? So when we look at it, we have to say, what happened in 1962? Was there a document that removed the jurisdictional status of the Maroons? Or was it, there's this separation still? And this is key. The British Crown, and I've said it, is still the head of state. So if the British Crown is still the head of state and has an agreement with the Maroons, just as if King George had a treaty with Kojo. So let's say, for instance, Chief Richard Curry is Kojo, and Elizabeth is George. It's operating the same way. It's just that Elizabeth is saying that she has a responsible government, somebody here that is still operating what used to be the British-led government. Now, the problem is in 1962, that section of the body of people did not fight for their freedom. And what we're trying to say is that we cannot be vilified. We Maroons in Accompong cannot be vilified. It needs to be stopped saying that we had anything to do with Taki. We had anything to do with Paul Bogle. We had anything to do with Sam Sharp. And it's a very important issue that needs to be, told. And history needs to be retold, because we need to honor and pay, homage to Captain Kojo just as much as they pay homage in the syllabus with Nani. It's very important because, Kojo and his people, the Leeward Trelawney Town Maroons would have, in 1738, showed the world that the quote-unquote so-called black people, the so-called Negro, was able to defeat an entire mighty nation, Goliath, and be able to say that anyone who took subjection to Captain Kojo or his successors, which is today Chief Richard Curry, would be a free person, would be set at freedom forever.
But I'm going to press on a question. Seeing that you are an independent state, a government, and you all respect the work of Captain Kojo, right? Why then haven't the Maroons created or named Captain Kojo their national hero? You're a sovereign state. You're an independent government. You have a Minister of Foreign Affairs. You have a chief. You have all the ambits that makes up a government. You have the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So why then have you not named? You don't need the government of Jamaica to name.
No,
Him.
well, I wasn't alluding to that he needs to be named, a
No,
hero to the government. I was actually
but
just
I am
showing that
pressing
why
here
the
as a
people,
journalist. I would
yeah.
want, if you are lobbying the government.
No, what I'm saying, if you came to a Kongpong, I will answer that question right there. I'm sorry to cut you. But if you came to a Kongpong, which I know, we extended an invitation to you, and you walk around a Kongpong, you'll
You really
actually
want me to
see.
come to their compound?
No, what I'm saying is you will get your answer. Culture space is everywhere. The history of culture is all over a Kongpong, right? There's a monument. There are monuments, right? If you go into the town hall, into the museum, there are paintings, there signs of respect. Some of this is, within Maroon customary laws, and some
I
of it are at say, and
understand,
some of
but
it is
I'm
at
still
sacred sites.
pressing, Ambassador. I'm still pressing. If Kojo is very monumental in Maroon history,
Mhm.
why not name him the Maroon hero?
Well, I would say to your listeners and to the rest of the world, these are the things that we would have to do to allow Chief Richard Curry, a young leader, and his administration the time to actually execute a lot of these necessary things, the necessary attributes and character of expressing one's freedom. But we wanted to ensure that we did this the proper way.
Mm.
Andre, you were a part of government at one time, right? We have to look at this. We at currently, we're in very bad shape as a people. Unfortunately, some of our minds are divided. That's a very bad thing. That's one. We lack the upward economic and social mobility to move quickly. That's two. And three, we somehow need to at least understand the relationship with the government of Jamaica. Why is that important? Because the government of Jamaica could decide, if Chief Richard Curry and this administration, this has to, for some reason, is forced to, actually execute and embody the totality of sovereignty as other states do under the Montevideo Convention of States, where as long as you have a government, you have a territory, you have a people, and you have the right to enter into international relationships with other states. We have all of those four attributes. One of them, we're kind of having this discussion with the government of Jamaica, but as you said, prior administrations respected and recognized that sovereignty and that territorial right. But of course, right now we're having this little issue. So before we wanted to go out and look like, be classed through propaganda as some rebels or some breakout force, person who would know people, who would now be, under national security interests and, be labeled, through different misinformation and propaganda. That's not how we want to do it. I myself have come from a background of understanding how to follow certain procedures and protocols, and if I'm going to execute my fiduciary duty in a proper way under the constitution that has been recently ratified for the sovereign state of Accompong, it is incumbent upon me to try my best so that history can be told the right way, and if necessary, resolve me of any mishaps, because we must try to have proper decorum and communication. If communication is broken, then we're going to have exactly what you see transpiring. We're going to have people becoming proxies. We're going to have outside forces. You touched on it recently, that there are some geopolitical issues that we may be facing as an island. So all of these things and aspects are, people have to be cognizant of. A lot of it is flying over a lot of people's heads. They're unfortunately distracted. So the Maroons have never really been center stage and in the eyes of everybody before Chief Richard Curry. What happened is, may his soul rest in peace. Former Deputy Melville Curry was a staunch advocate in defending the cockpit country, and he would have told all of his knowledge as an elder and shared that knowledge as his Maroon customary procedures to Chief Richard Curry, right, his nephew. And from there, the fire has been lit so that he has to continue the legacy of his family and his ancestors, and of course what Kodja and his people would have did in the time of 1738. Now, let me make it clear to your listeners and to the world what exactly, why Chief Richard Curry and his administration and the Accompong Maroons are fighting at this point in time, and why we believe dialogue is not being, had, and why we have an issue. You alluded to it earlier, that we saw that there was a time coming, the Republic. We saw that the 60th, the Jubilee was right here, that we just haven't had the other day, right? So it's very important to note that in Jamaica never had 60 years before. This was now the crowning of this 60 years. If anybody understands land law in Jamaica, if you hold land for 60 years against the crown, you have a claim. So this is the first time in history that this will actually be tested of anybody that is holding land, right? So already there was no title that we, the Maroons and the Accompong Maroons of Cockpit Country have ever filed in the registrar, the titles office of Jamaica. We've owned and occupied these lands, both through ownership and possessory right, through the treaty, right? So if the former administrations, Andrew Holness and Prime Minister Andrew Holness himself, on recorded video numerous times have admitted that Cockpit Country is where the British couldn't go and Cockpit Country is where the Maroons live, then I am quite, trying to use my common sense, I'm quite confused as to what has changed. And we believe what has changed.
You know what has changed?
Let's hear it.
What has changed? What has changed of recent is that the agenda of the government is for economic advancement. And because the agenda of the government is for economic advancement, there are special interest groups that are very much interested in the lands, the fertile lands of the Cockpit Country. So that is what has changed. What has equally changed is that they want to confine boundaries to the Cockpit Country. The boundaries, from my understanding, was 100 and odd thousand acres being limited
hectares.
to hectares, 100 and odd hectares. That is how many acres of land is now being confined to, I think, about
200,000.
How many they want to so they want to remove the hectares from 110?
60. No, they want to reduce it from 116,000 hectares to about 74,000 plus hectares.
So that is basically cutting the land in half, cutting the Cockpit Country in half, so as to be doing mining.
Not necessarily almost half, but yes, it's well, from what we understood, and and people can go do their research. And Chief Richard Curry was actually in attendance during this time, this announcement of the Cockpit Country boundaries in 2017 at Parliament. And the reason why this would have confused, many stakeholders, including the Accompong Maroons and many environmentalists who were watching this case, is that from around 2008, there was a study, as to the boundaries for Cockpit Country, in regards to the ecology and the biodiversity. This would have, encompassed, many professionals in the environment, in ecology. University of the West Indies was a part of the study, and other government agencies. This report would have come out and been established now in 2013 and accepted. Accompong Maroons were in chapter 4 of that said report with our consultations. Even though we said that there were more lands, we agreed at that time to that defined boundary of the 2013 Cockpit Country Stakeholders Group, because we were a part of that. Now, what had happened was in 2017, during Parliament, Prime Minister Andrew Holness would have made an announcement to what is now called the Cockpit Country Protected Area. Now, this is very important.
So
No,
he
the
became a
copy.
three-card trickster on you. So you're saying the
Some,
Prime Minister of Jamaica turn a three-card trickster, move it from the cockpit country to what, the reserves? Come on, man, talk, ambassador. Tell Jamaica what is happening. Let me get it. I want you to tell Jamaica the samphire the Prime Minister used in the Parliament town.
All right. So what is happening is that yes, he used something. There is a law that they would be using called the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, and inside the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, which is a defendant in our case, there is a old law on the books that basically saying that they can just gazette, the land that they're going to declare as a protected area. And once they gazette it, it will have this legal, person status, and it will now have the legal backing of, the statutory laws on the books under the Constitution. Of course, that was never done prior to this, recently. And when this was done now, Jamaica had basically made a claim to cockpit country as, the trustee of the cockpit country from a legal perspective and a legal understanding. That's technically what is happening. It's now being placed on the books of the Jamaica National Heritage Trust for Jamaica to execute the cockpit country protected area. Therefore, what are we saying? Now, if the government of Jamaica can, reduce the cockpit country from 116,000 hectares that was defined and agreed upon using the technology at the time by inputting the data, where the government of Jamaica would have also had the same boundary knowledge. So it's not that they did not have that boundary. They have that boundary. We all have the same coordinates, right? Once you place it into this system, and this was done with the help of the Windsor Research Center and the great people doing their work up there, that we would understand that cockpit country would just manifest itself and show itself on this GPS system and radar system. So the black line was understood as, what, everybody would agree to. Of course, if the government of Jamaica has the state power to say, okay, we're not going to go with that boundary because of outside interest, which we found out in 2017, and reduce it to 74,000 hectares. If they will do it today, how are the Accompong Maroons guaranteed that in 50 years, or 100 years after our generation, when the unborn gets here, that they would be rest assured that cockpit country will not be reduced again because there's going to be more mining more mining lands that are needed, and this is the assurance that we don't have, right? Because if we currently see that, without the consultation, that the boundary can be reduced, and who is to say that it can't be reduced again? I mean, and that is the main issue. And that is why the current administration and the youth, we were the unborn at one point in time. And we have now spring forth to say that we see an issue. And we're lucky to be able to have basically spoken up in time prior to the 60 years and prior to, Jamaica becoming a republic. You are right. If that had happened, this would have been a major fight, probably a fight that we could not have. So let me make this clear to all of the Maroons that are listening, and you can check this with anyone who knows law and go to them with an intelligible tone, and they'll render you with a favorable reply. And it goes like this, right? And it goes like this, that if Jamaica became a republic, and the British is not the head of state, and the British has moved on, then everything would now become a cultural part of the new Republic of Jamaica. It would just be now a history of Jamaica.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Okay. If Jamaica is to become a republic before the Accompong Maroons, or the custodians of the 1738 treaty, the Trelawney Town Maroons, the Leeward Trelawney Town Maroons, right? And that is now under the custodianship of the sovereign state of Accompong. If we do not have proper dialogue with the government of Jamaica, and somehow where government of Jamaica decides to move forward, and let's say let's say Accompong did not resist this, right? And nothing happens. And we go forward with the government of Jamaica and the Republic, and we don't have any consultations. What legally happens is that the treaty technically just, right? It's nothing more than just a cultural aspect of the government of Jamaica, right? What would happen at that point in time, you would say, yes, Maroons are here, and at one time, there was this treaty, they were separate people, and then there's 1962, and then there is 2020 whatever, when Jamaica gets it. No, at that point in time, as I said, it would just be written down in books, and it would just be a great story, and Accompong will just be a tourist attraction only. It would not be a point where, if there was encroachment or there was trespass, there was theft, there would not be that unalienable right, that birthright that can be invoked because of what our ancestors would have rightfully left us. So there is an absolute difference. So right now, prior to a republic, being that we did it in time, we actually have a voice, and we do still have a seat at the table. But there are many Maroons, unfortunately, that are working with people and outside forces for ulterior motives and greed. And we would call them turncoats, and history would have it that there's nothing new under the sun. And who they were at that time, they are today, trying to actually sabotage what is written and expressed as freedoms and liberties forever that should be there for our people. Whether they do
on
not
that point of turncoat Maroons, on that point of betrayal of Maroons, who are those persons? I want us to go there tonight, because I'm not going to throw shades. I'm going to show darts. I'm going to go at them tonight. You said they are turncoat Maroons who are there for self-interest and economic advancement. I've been doing some research, right? And I need you to go down this history lesson with me, my friend. Is there a bank account for the Maroons?
There is a number of bank accounts for the Maroons.
Number of bank accounts. Is there a bank account in reference that is in US dollars?
Yes, there's a US account in Jamaica, and an NCB account.
What is the name of that account?
The name would be under an entity that was established in 2005, so prior to Chief Richard Curry, and also prior, from my understanding, to the Farron Williams administration. And that name is the Accompong Development Foundation.
The Accompong Development Foundation.
Yeah.
And you say it is a US account, US Jamaican account, right?
Yes.
The Accompong. Repeat it.
Development
Foundation.
Yeah.
When was this account opened?
From the records in 2005.
2005. Who was the chief and the Minister of Finance from 2005 on this account? I
believe that account would have been around, I think it was it Petty or no? Was it Petty? 2005 was Petty or Murder? I believe it was Petty, but they would have moved on. We're talking at the time where transactions really would have started.
When the transactions started to come into the account, the US, the millions of dollars.
Right.
Who so that was the treasurer, the Minister of Finance, and the colonel at the time?
Right. So at the time when this particular, it must be, let me bring some clarity. So the Accompong Development Foundation had a Jamaican account only first that was understood and known to the full Maroon Council in Accompong, right? So the US account that was now established around the time of Colonel Farron Williams and a character called Timothy McPherson that goes by the name now of Chief Shamako, But these two would have now created this secret US account that the town did not know about, that the people of Accompong did not know about.
Wait. So, Ambassador, you're saying there was a Jamaican account for the Accompong Development Foundation.
That was
But
right.
upon the leadership of Chief Colonel Dillon, you're saying that the character known as Timothy McPherson and Colonel Dillon opened a US Jamaican account?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow. So this was not known by the council, the entire council never knew about this account?
No.
Wow.
A matter of fact,
just work with me. Work with me. I'm going down a pathway and I'm probing and I'm questioning. I just need direct answers now, Ambassador. We're not going to go through all the explanations. I'm going to give you a chance to explain. But what I am doing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I am doing now is simply this. You said that Colonel Ferron, right, is his name?
Correct.
And Timothy McPherson opened a US Jamaican account, and the entire council of leadership knew nothing about it.
That is correct.
Nothing about it. Mighty God. Can you tell Jamaica and the world and the diaspora tonight the transaction that happened in that US Jamaican account? Give details, Ambassador, of the amount of monies that were transferred into personal accounts and to other colonels' accounts. We're going to expose it tonight, Colonel.
Yes, well, if your audience doesn't know, I will explain that, Chief Richard Corey has a background. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, sorry, I got muted. Right. So Chief Richard Corey has a background and a master's in banking and finance, and would have worked for, a number of financial institutions. So he started to probe himself because during the transition of power, in a proper democratic system, Chief Richard Corey wasn't given much, nor the administration was given much. So this bank account that we're making reference to, this US account that was opened with Timothy McPherson, when it was being transferred, the documents are being transferred over to Chief as of February last year. That account was not, shown to us. So when we started to probe, because we need to find out, how was this building built in Accompong? How were people being funded? How did Ferron, collect this money? And we found the bank account, right? Because it's in the name of the Accompong Development Foundation. So of course the chief and the full Maroon Council, members of the full Maroon Council would have gone to the NCB bank account, declared themselves, made themselves known, shown the Constitution, which would act as an Articles of Incorporation. And of course, Chief would have been granted the necessary information. Right. So upon receiving that information, it really blew us away, because to us, we would have interpreted as illicit activities. Why? Because we were also, in the custody of certain email records that pretty much showed an elaborate plan of what was going on. And of course, Timothy McPherson and his involvement with very, major international nefarious characters would have been involved.
Who is Timothy McPherson? People say shouting, but I have to question that tonight. Tell the globe who Timothy McPherson is.
When I had the chance to speak to Timothy McPherson when I entered office, he basically summed himself up as a financial engineer. I believe he was educated or did some work over in Germany for some time. He now is basically operating as a chief in Africa. He has created some kind of jurisdiction called the African Kingdoms Diaspora, something of that nature, and something called the Eco 6, the Economic Six Regions movement, something of that sort. But it's important to know he couldn't create any of those things if he did not land, his jurisdiction in Accompong and anchor his jurisdiction in Accompong. Hence why he needed to create this currency called Lumi, which if you look on the money of Lumi, it says Accompong Maroons. So he's actually using the trademark name of the Accompong Maroons. He's also using the symbol of the Abeng, and a number of other,
So who gave Timothy McPherson authority to be using the symbols of the Maroons? Who did that?
Well, when we dug into the records, we found that Timothy McPherson had created what is called a Bank Act, because he would have now been installed under Chief Ferron Williams as Minister of Finance.
Wow.
And not only was he the Minister of Finance and had an appointment letter, he then now became the governor of the bank that he was creating. So, which kind of created a conflict of interest just on the face value, right?
Wow.
So while that is happening, he created a bank act. And in this bank act, it states that Accompong would have 50% shares of this bank, that 40% went to Timothy McPherson, and
Wow.
10% was going to go to an outside investor. So yes, not
Who
only
is the
is he
outside investor?
we trailed the outside investor to an entity called the Caribbean Development Group, which was transferring hundreds and hundreds of thousands of US to this US bank account that was created by Timothy and Ferron Williams. So the Caribbean Development Group, from what we understand, is being, I guess, controlled by a number of individuals, but one chiefly being a person of major interest in the international realm, called Jan Marszalek.
Jan who?
Jan Marszalek. If you go on Google.
Wait. Jan who?
Marszalek.
Who is Jan? Isn't Jan Marszalek one of those people on Interpol that them looking for internationally?
Yes.
That's foreign. So you are saying that this criminal has alliance with the Accompong?
I am saying that the world's most wanted man at one point was in direct communication with Timothy.
What you just said?
Was in direct communication with Timothy.
No, Ambassador. Wait. God, this breaking news. Breaking news. Ambassador.
Yes,
you are saying a known criminal who is on Interpol had alliances with the Accompong under successive colonels?
Yep, that is correct.
Mighty God! Criminals, white-collar criminals, having associations with the Accompong? Let me cool down. Ambassador, I'm going to shut up for a while. Tell the world, Ambassador. Tell the world what is really happening. Tell the world.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. It is quite unfortunate. I mean, what we had to uncover and what, this dirty laundry that we actually have to bring to the public. But in order to run a proper government, we do have to start with clean hands. And that is what we have tried to do from day one. So in order to clean up house and do our proper due diligence, we started to uncover that over $1 million just in this one account, over less than a 2-year period, would have been siphoned off, coming through offshore accounts in St. Lucia, Caribbean Development Group being one of them, And once the money came in, when you look at the records, it shows Timothy McPherson and Ferron Williams, removing money instantaneously, some wire transfers and major cash withdrawals. We actually have witness testimonies from members of the community in Accompong that said they actually were there. We had a town hall meeting the other day where, Timothy McPherson, after he realized that the full Maroon Council would have, entered the building because the building was now in a state of dilapidation, being run down, birds were now taking it up and all of that, right? So, and the community has basically said they were told that this was a community building, that there was a groundbreaking, that this would be where the chief's office was, where the full Maroon Council was going to be, all of these different things, right? So then the next thing we heard that this now, Ferran Williams is now saying that, it's his private property and it was a gift to him personally from Timothy. So this is what is creating a lot of turmoil, in the town, in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty, in terms of people who are selfish and have greed and power, that are steering and driving, their whole emotion. Because when we uncovered that Jan Marszalek was a 10% owner at some point.
So you're saying the criminal. So you're saying that the criminal has ownership, or had ownership.
Yes.
Had ownership in the bank, in the account.
According to email records and according to documentations of contracts that we have reviewed and authenticated, yes. And not only that, Timothy McPherson has affirmed on video recording in Accompong recently, because he was called in front of the full Maroon Council to give a full testimony of what had happened, so that we would continue our probing and documentation. Because clearly, after we sent everything what we're talking about right now on your platform, we sent all of this to Mocha from last year, right? We brought.
So how long ago you sent this to Mocha?
Last year. From
you send it to the Major Crime Investigation Unit of the government of Jamaica. Has Mocha acted upon what you have sent to them?
Absolutely not.
Minister of National Security, see why I say Horace Chang sleeping. You're saying that you sent these intelligence to Mocha, which heads under the Jamaica Constabulary Force, of the criminal activities of embezzlement happening in the Maroon town, and you're saying to me that they have not acted no time to catch these criminals? But no, before you go there, sir, how would what you say you send it to Mocha? You don't have your own Minister of National Security.
Yes, so we do have that's what I'm saying. So we have done our internal investigations. We have all of that, but let's make it clear, because most people would just like to not look at the facts in front of them and go, oh, aren't you sovereign? You're supposed to be able to take care of this. Well, the fact remains that the bank account that was used is in the jurisdiction of Jamaica.
And not Accompong, so therefore,
and it's US dollars.
It would be the jurisdiction of the other sovereign state to act.
Correct. So that's why dialogue is needed, proper partnership is needed. Again, I will make reference that if the United States needed help to reach to a person and needs access to certain records because the person may be using US funds for illicit activity in Jamaican bank accounts, the government of Jamaica and the authorities would oblige. Here, we're finding that there is some major block. Why? We're not sure. But 2 months after all of these records were shown and we showed it to Mocha, we saw that the former Colonel Ferran Williams was given an order of distinction. So
you're saying after you see the embezzlement and all things happening in the accounts, you're saying that the government of Jamaica gave the former colonel, the chief, Ferran Williams, a national award?
Correct.
What a web we weave. So after you show them that this colonel is a part of a corrupted web of swindling millions of US dollars, Ambassador, you never tell Jamaica the millions of US dollars. The world need to know. Tell Jamaica how much millions you're talking about.
Well, with the account that we have been able to acquire the details for, we're sure there are a number of other accounts, but the one that we have the full records of right now, shows over $1 million US easily going through this account. 1 million US, which would equate to about 150 million Jamaican today.
1 million US dollars? Breaking news! Breaking news! 1 million US dollars!
That is correct.
All these monies, colonels, backside. All of these monies.
So let's look at this. And let's look at this. Let's look at this, Andre.
No, Colonel, I want to ask you a question. Wait, man, just give me a second. Cause you a chat most of the night, Me know me I interrupt, but me have to interrupt to get the sparks and the fire and the flames.
Yeah.
Have the people of their compound benefited from the one? How much you say? How much millions again?
Over 1 million US, and no.
Over 1 million US. Have the people of compound gotten their partner draw? Have the people gotten housing?
No.
Have the people gotten roads? Have they gotten infrastructure? What have the people gotten from that 1 million US dollars?
Absolutely nothing. They got a building that is sitting down there right now, rotting away, that Colonel Fern Williams is now saying is his personal property. That
so at times it is alleged that after him swindled so much money, him still claim the building itself?
Correct.
Mighty God. This is a web, Ambassador Anu. How do you get yourself out of this filth? How do you take yourself out of this spider web of corruption, nepotism, cronyism, and corruption?
And that's where
you are saying that a man who is a part of a nasty web of corruption got a national award from the government of Jamaica.
Yep.
And you're saying that the people of Jamaica, the Maroons, have not benefited from any kind of resources. And you're saying that this same Ferron Williams is equally demanding that the building belongs to him?
That is correct. He's gone on national radio, on I believe
nationwide news.
Yeah, nationwide news, and actually states this is not hearsay. This is live action that is happening, which is why you have this turmoil going on, because you have a set of people that are trying to bring honesty, integrity, the characters and principles of a true democratic society, along with the cultural aspects still intact, and ensure that we can have a people with prosperity, a people with independence, autonomy, the various things that have been signed in international law that Jamaica is even a signatory of, that we can actually express those things even as indigenous people, but in order to do these things, Andre, we have to be able to start with a clean house, a solid foundation, right? We're not trying to build no house and no sun, right? We're not trying to have no, when we leave office, that is going to be written down that, we were just a part of some corrupt system that was running. That's not what our ancestors left us. Our ancestors left us, a legacy, a noble legacy, one that is worthy to understand that people would have given their life and their blood for freedom, right? Not trying to steal buildings from people and not give water to people and not fix road for the people when you have a fiduciary duty, right? When you take
about
oath
the
of
fiduciary
office.
duty, but you see what I'm saying is, the people of their compound, the Maroons, have suffered for decades. Some of the places that you're looking at their compound is underdeveloped and under-resourced. And you're saying that you have a chief who had resources, and these resources were never given to advance the welfare of the Maroon community.
No, it wasn't. A matter of fact, some of that money even went to other communities. Some of that money went to other kernels,
Other
you know,
colonels? So
yes, I
you're
mean,
saying that other, no, 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 no. This is a deep allegation now. So you're saying that the leadership of the Accompong and other colonels, Eastward, Leewards, Charleston Maroons, are you saying that other Maroon colonels received some of this money?
I am going by the records that I am looking at, and the records that I am looking at show the names of representatives from and the leadership of other Maroon communities, and I would leave it
What are some
there.
of these names that were sent that are shown in these records?
I would let the time come when Chief Richard Curry is going to be putting out these documents for the public actually to see, and I will leave it at that point. I'm pretty sure you understand,
Wow.
possible, issues of trying to put liable and slander on people and stuff. But this is not liable and slander. I mean, if I had the paper beside me, I would just hold it up to the screen. I
Some
think
of
that would have been the
there's a
best way to
pressing
do it.
question that must be answered. The
Yeah.
$1 million US, how did the Accompong and the Maroons come about to say that that's their money? Where did those monies come from?
Well, exactly what I am actually saying to you. So let's look back at what I am saying. The record says that if this building, this so-called bank, the Central Solar Bank of Accompong, as it was being styled, is going to be built, and there is this contract called the Bank Act. And in this Bank Act, it's saying that the state of Accompong owns 50%. Remember, this is being engineered by, Timothy McPherson, the Minister of Finance and the governor of the bank, right? So he's creating this entire elaborate plan. Now, when you look at this architecture, he's now also making sure that there's a 10% investor, and this 10% investor is an offshore company. And when we look into the email records, we are recognizing that the Jan Marszalek, currently the world's most wanted man, that on Interpol, was a person speaking on behalf of that offshore entity owning that 10%, according to the Bank Act that Timothy McPherson would have tried to put in place. I must say, though, that of course, at some point along the way, when the Bank of Jamaica and the government of Jamaica and other people made their objections to what was happening in regards to this bank, the tone and the posture would have changed from former Chief Ferron Williams, and he would have then, of course, went completely 180 on Timothy McPherson, saying that, he gave him a cease and desist, and he can no longer run this operation, etc., etc. Of course, the operation was still in full effect as Timothy McPherson, was continuing, from what I understand from Timothy McPherson's mouth on a recorded video interview, explained that he has a 99-year lease on Maroon land with Ferron Williams in regards to the land and him having the bank, and he's paying Ferron Williams to have that building there for his operation. So I
Wow.
am now right. So, and this is support. You remember, the document says that the state has 50% of what is happening here. And remember, the monies are coming through the state account underneath the state name, the Accompong Development Foundation. It's not like Ferron Williams and Timothy McPherson went to the bank and opened their own account with their own names or their own entity as the signatories. They just had a secret splinter account created off of the main account that was created in 2005 prior to him being colonel, right? So he's still disguising it under the Accompong Development Foundation,
Wow.
right? They would have now started moving money through that account. And what is very interesting is that large sums of US would have been now transferred from offshore accounts to this local NCB account, and none of it was red flagged. Not one single transaction.
So you're saying that millions of US dollars are being transferred into the accounts and into offshore accounts, and NCB never flagged that money?
There was no flag from the records, and
the National Commercial Bank never flagged those thousands of US dollars being, wow, wow, this is rather interesting. So you're saying that Timothy McPherson's has immunity?
I'm saying it's something interesting to pay attention to.
Very interesting that this account was never flagged. Wow. This is appalling. This is alarming, Ambassador. This is alarming. So could it be that because Chief Richard Curry is not being able to be manipulated and maneuvered, why Richard Curry's administration is having serious problems settling down in the Accompong?
Right, and I want to make it clear, and I think I think maybe I'm seeing, I'm just being told that people may be thinking, on your platform that Chief Richard Curry is the one who this all happened under, or who was involved in this. We need to make that absolutely clear. Andre,
no, this happened under his previous successor.
Right. It's just somebody just brought it to my attention, so let's make sure that clear. I think there are people who are just coming in and getting, the wrong idea. So, of course, people should pay attention. But sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Andre. Sorry, just wanted to make that
poor
clear.
People, when they want to transfer 1, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 US, have them get under serious scrutiny by not just NCB, but banks on a whole. And you're telling me, Ambassador, can you name some of the thousands of US that are transferred to other accounts?
Yes, I mean, from the Caribbean Development Group that was there, you have 70,000 US one transaction, you have 110,000 US another transaction.
And you're saying that no red flags, nothing was alarmed. Nothing. And when poor people want to transfer a little bit of money, you're saying that these banks put them under serious scrutiny. Wow. What a web.
I mean, we'll just have to look to the records, right? And all we're looking at, this administration is looking at the records. So people may think that we're just here trying to create trouble. No, we're trying to clean up house. You have to ask yourself, people, the unfortunate thing here, Andre, we have a society, unfortunately, where Jamaica is being, linked to, scamming and what them called choppers and all of this other nonsense, right? We're not in a moment of the renaissance or the kindling of knowledge and light and the movement of prosperity, as many of the national heroes or the late Bob Marley or many other influential people have left. We want to almost glorify and support foolishness, for lack of a better word to use at this time, right? So, and this is why our society is like this, because there are very few brave people who will step forward and say they're sick and tired of corruption. They're sick and tired of this oligarch, old, boy system that, men are trying to control other people's destiny, and when we see this type of corruption, of course, our lives are in danger. We've been given many death threats. A matter of fact, I saw a wanted poster of myself and Chief Richard Curry of people circulating $6 million bounty on our head, and these are the type of things that we have to endure each day, just trying to uphold, our oath of office. Again, we take it very seriously. Why? Because the family of nations takes it seriously. There are countries who recognize that a treaty is something that they must adhere to, because if you break the oath of a treaty, no other nation will look to do business with you because they think that you cannot keep your promise. This is just something that has been known since time immemorial, that your word is your bond, and especially if we express it on paper. Now, right? So this is why we as an administration, though we're young, we take it very seriously and we are very fervent in that faith that we will have order in Accompong again, and Accompong will flourish under great minds and great hands, and people will be invited and venture and many pilgrimage. And I think there are people who understand that Jamaica can be the next Dubai if they understand it.
Well,
Jamaica
I've
can.
always been championing the cause that Jamaica can be equally great and more powerful than Dubai. I'm of
Correct.
that view.
Right, correct. And it has to be visionaries. It has to be people who understand the law of the land, right? Understand, the economic problem, the social problem, the psychological problem, and of course the problem with the youth on the ground, the youth at risk. All of these elements have to be placed in a cohesive plan, not just words and, every 5 year curry goat and give me a vote. Right? It can't work. It can't work like that, right? So in Accompong, being a diverse people, a separate people, I must only say this because I have been a pupil of many great intellects, many great minds, legally, international, advocates, human rights attorneys, national and immigration attorneys, treaty attorneys who represent indigenous people in the United States. And under my, tutelage, I have learned these things of which I speak. And it's only that I am now, I'm not speaking just as I know. I am speaking and invoking things that have been taught to me, that I see on paper, read, and, them send it to school to learn. So how would you send me to school to learn, to understand? And then we are now expressing ourselves, what is the law? And then we're going to be vilified for that, right? So we're asking. I'm asking that the Ferron Williams administration at this point in time, along with the other nefarious characters, understand really and truly what they're doing. You are trying to break up the culture. You are trying to break up what our ancestors built. There is much dirt that has been uncovered, and we're not trying to drag the good name of Accompong and our legacy through the mud. That is, why would we want to do that? That doesn't build a good brand. I mean, you have brand Jamaica that is out there, that is a major thing. It's explosive, and it could be even used at much more, even at a better way than it is, But of course, that is not done. But of course, Accompong can do the same thing. But of course, so it's not something purposeful that we just want to tarnish it, unlike certain others, right? So we have to look at what is a premeditated reason that would give people to try and create anarchy or turmoil in Accompong when there is good people trying to bring honor and integrity to the society, when over $1 million, Andre, goes through an account for people who don't have water, who don't have proper roads, who some of the houses are barely holding up, some of the walls, some of the zinc fences, right? While there are others who have mansions, even though there's no water. You get what I'm saying? So it's not hard to tell what is happening. And then if we look at it, well, let's think about this here. Very interesting. When I say, if you ever take a venture, and any of your followers who want to take a venture to Accompong to understand what I'm saying, to verify what I am saying, I am challenging you to come to Accompong, sit with us, take a tour, look for yourselves, and verify for yourselves, so you can say, I know for sure, and you can then separate fake news from reality. Because if you come to Accompong, you will notice that there are a number of food for the poor homes, and they're all in certain areas. Particularly,
so why are they in certain areas, though?
There are certain areas in the Accompong town, especially and predominantly, mainly where the Ferron Williams stronghold in the community is, right? And when we look at some of these things, let's think about this now. So over $150 million would have come through Accompong. Let's say $20 million, Andre, it took to build that building. Or let's say 30 million with everything after it's finished, right? We still have $120 million left. Where did that money go? And if we had money like that, why would we be asking for the food for the poor homes? To the point when Chief Richard Curry and his administration contacted Food for the Poor, we were we were disheartened to hear that the board of directors had almost basically blacklisted Accompong. Why? Because of the misuse of the homes that were granted to the Accompong Maroons under the former administration. Wow. Right? That was told to us. Right? Because
so you are saying that under Farron Williams, the resources that came in from Food for the Poor were abused?
Yeah, definitely were abused. That's what was told to us by members
abused
of the board.
So how does Chief Curry restore the trust?
Not funds. We're talking actual the homes itself that are
boards and the house structures.
Correct. Things were being misused. Correct.
But I want to ask you a question.
Before you go, you were about.
I am going to put you in the hot seat right now. Today, when I put your picture out that you will be on my platform tonight, I saw where a group on social media, both on Instagram and Facebook, put out a picture with you and another gentleman saying scam alert. Scam alert. Let me find it. Let me find it, Ambassador.
Take your time.
They are saying that you, Ambassador, you're a scammer.
I saw that.
Can you tell Jamaica and the world what is really happening? Why would they even put out those accusations? Because those are libelous and slanderous. Why would they put out those allegations to say that you, Chief Ambassador Anu Tafar, is a scammer? Tell Jamaica, because I don't know the bangarang in a Maroon town. Why would they put your name and say that you're a scammer? Who are these people? Accompong News. Why are they making these allegations not only against you, but also against the chief? They have made some damning allegations against the chief. What is really happening? Because it's coming like saying everybody near mixed up in a scam. Or they're trying to put your very name in the very mud that they swindle in.
Well, of course, in the art of war, Sun Tzu, war can be used, deception can be used in war, and that's just one of the tactics I believe that is being invoked against me at this time. If anyone looks to the timing of that post, it's it came exactly after you would have made reference that you would have me a guest on this show, right? So I would say to the world and your guests, the reason why they're bringing that up and using a photo of me holding a certain rock, a stone, which is a ruby actually, is because I was asked to be a trustee of a certain trust, and this was business prior to the Maroons.
What trust? Talk no, God, we don't want to hide around here. What trust, Ambassador?
That trust was called the Nook Development Foundation, and again,
what development foundation?
The NUC Development Foundation.
Nook.
Nook. So I'll explain what the Nook is. Right. So this is completely something different. This was prior to me being asked to be an ambassador of the Maroons. This was my business that I had. I'm also influential in the the fintech world. I have certain technologies, in the blockchain world, in technology, in terms of movement of artificial intelligence. Let's say in data collections and stuff of that nature, in terms of finance data though, right? So if you need to have numbers, bots that are collecting information and data, the world is all about data in that aspect. So I had done previous investments in certain companies, and a certain asset was placed in that company, in a trust, right? A trust company. I had another trustee. There are a few people that were in the trust. Of course, if anybody understands how trust law works, Just like if you're taking up a oath of office, you're a trustee, or a police officer can be a trustee, or a judge can be a trustee. People are taking up offices. If a co-worker does something wrong and it's in his personal life, it doesn't affect the business, nor does it affect the other co-worker. Do you see what I'm saying? So of course, one of the trustees would have had a personal issue, and of course that information went out. Lawyers got involved. Of course, we had to take care of that issue. My name was never called. I was never a part of a case. I was never a part of an investigation. Again, trust law would stand to know that that person is not an owner of the asset in a private capacity. The asset is owned in trust, so that therefore whatever happened in his personal private life doesn't come over into the trust. But of course, the people who I would have to say are styled as our opponents or our enemies or whatever they want to consider themselves right now, they would like to think that the good people of Jamaica and the world are complete idiots, that they would like to pull the wool over people's eyes.
In the article, it said that one of the gentlemen was recently arrested.
That's the person who I am talking about, in his private capacity, in his own personal business, whatever else he was doing.
So you never did your due diligence to know that this man possibly was a criminal before you even take up the ambits to become trustee to him or to the company?
He was already a trustee, and then we found out that happened. Of course, according to the trust, anything that would happen to him, he would lose his position as a trustee based on bonds. A trustee can be bonded. So if you create a problem that can create a liability on the trust, we can pull your bond, or you exit the trust based on exit clause. These are all things of contracts, and you're well aware of contracts, right? So for your listeners who are not aware, people, unfortunately, who may not understand this legal jargon, and the legalese language, their people are able to weave in and try to put certain things together, put my picture together beside a person, and then crop an article and do all kind of things. And of course, unfortunately, our people, they say that if you want to hide something from our people, you put it in a book or you put it in fine print. And of course, our people do not really have the time nowadays. Our fingers are just scrolling on a phone. Our attention span is very limited. We look to others to always be telling us what we should be interpret as our understanding, our daily news or whatever. So that's how, people like themselves can come in and put things of that nature out. I actually was never hiding any of this. I actually, in many town halls, I have come forward and expressed all of this to the good people of Accompong. I have opened myself to actually all of this, Andre. That's why I even sent it, to many other people. I'm not sure if you got some of this even prior to us coming here, because, there's a movie called 8 Mile, and I respect, how it was written. And if anybody remember the movie 8 Mile with Eminem, what he did, in this rap battle, of course, a war of words between each other, the person, right, is that he went first. And what he did in order to disarm his opponent, right, and his enemy, he made sure to tell everything about himself, or about his life that the opponent could use to try to create, some kind of propaganda or some kind of, point.
So you're saying that you exposed the very truth of this man being locked up before anyone else tried to use it against you?
No, I exposed that I was a trustee of this trust, and I told everything about, none of this was secret at all.
Oh, right? So you're saying prior to you taking up your ambassadorial duties in the Accompong, you made abundantly clear to the Accompong and the Maroons that you had a trustee duty to this company.
Right. So which would not affect my duties to Accompong, because it's completely separate. It has no interrelation or affects it in any way. I made this known not only to Chief Richard Curry and the full Maroon Council. I would have made it aware to a number of elders who would have brought me to Chief Richard Curry prior to his installment. So he wasn't even Chief Richard Curry yet. right? So this, it's just something about myself, right, that I was just making people, because I started to understand. I know politics, Andre, right? I've had, people in political positions that I have studied and learned from, right? So I am well aware that when you enter into office, that you as a public figure, you're a part of a public trust, that people can take you to the road and just put everything out there. But there's a fine line, right, when things become defamation and libelous and slanderous. And we have documented it, and I have documented it. And the beautiful thing is, I'm already in, a lawsuit against the government of Jamaica. So I'm not worried about a few people like Daniel
With regards
Basra.
to the lawsuit,
Mm-hmm.
who is the plaintiff in the case?
Come again?
Who is the plaintiff? Is it Chief Richard Curry, or is it
there's two plaintiffs, two claimants. It's the full Maroon Council for the Sovereign State of Accompong and Chief Richard Curry.
So you said there are two claimants.
Two claimants, two defendants. It's the government of Jamaica, but the Attorney General, according to the laws of Jamaica, stands to bear all suits against the government of Jamaica.
So it's the government of Jamaica and the Attorney General.
No, it's the government of Jamaica and Jamaica National Heritage Trust. But how it's written on the document would be attorney for the government of Jamaica and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust.
So the Heritage Trust and the government of Jamaica are the defendants, and Chief Curry and the Maroon Council.
Correct.
Are the plaintiffs. Interesting. Yes, so when is the case to be heard?
The next case is to be heard on September the 30th, 2022. Right. And I would like your listeners and the world to hear that, we are definitely...
Who is the attorney representing the Maroons?
There are 3 local attorneys currently. It's Charles Ganga Singh, Isaac Buchanan, and Alessandra Labiche.
Isaac Buchanan, Charles Ganga Singh, and Alexandra Labiche.
Correct.
Interesting. So you say Bangarang going to happen in a courthouse?
Well, it should be interesting because we have yet to have a response from the government of Jamaica, whereby the judge had given an order twice for the government of Jamaica to respond. And they have yet to respond. They were asked, according to a court order, they were told to respond by July 28th, which they did not respond to. So we have been bracing ourselves for some very interesting weeks coming up to September the 30th.
So do you think because of this class action that the Maroons are taking against the government, why efforts are being made to destabilize and confuse Chief Curry and his team?
Yes, absolutely. That is our belief. And we ask people to really, open their hearts and minds and use their common sense and see what is happening. There's a major thing here happening in Jamaica. It's not a joke. It's things that, some of us would only have read about and, would have glossed over in history books. But we're actually living in those same historical times now. There comes a time again when people are called upon to defend a sacred land and a sacred trust. This is not just physical. This is also a spiritual war. This is very spiritual because, when you start dealing with water and the destruction of the environment, and these are things that are actually protected in the Constitution of Jamaica. So, under the fundamental rights and freedoms that was enacted in 2011 and annexed to the Constitution of Jamaica, there, within section 15 of that said fundamental rights and freedoms, it talks about, the violation of the ecology. I believe it's either section 13 and 15. It talks about the destruction of the environment and the ecology, and that we have a right to basically, a clean environment and as such. So, these are constitutional violations right here locally, not just
But you
international
spoke
law.
about the watersheds just now.
Yes, the water table.
Who is disrupting the water tables in Jamaica?
Well, mining.
And
One,
I don't want you to get into the fine details of it because
correct,
we're
thank you.
pressed for
Based on my
time.
position, yeah.
We're pressed for time. But I want you to leave us with a bombshell. Where you sit, where you know, with what happened in the Rio Cobre. Was the Rio Cobre poisoned?
It is said that effluent caustic soda was released into the Rio Cobre, but it's very interesting that people should pay attention that articles have come out from Will Dalco saying that they do not accept any liability for the spill in the Rio Cobre.
So
So,
if Windalco never did it, who did it?
that's very interesting. Of course, I would have to assume
Ambassador?
if Will Dalco is
Ambassador,
saying that.
if just saying, I want you to leave it there. I don't want you to even answer further.
All
If
right.
Rio Cobre has denied Jamaica and the world, the globe, that they never made the operational error, who then did it? That's a question that I'm leaving you all with tonight. I am now going to open the lines. Ambassador, I'm asking
Yes,
if you
I'm
could
here.
spend some more time with us because I'm going to open the lines because I want people to call in. The number to call in is 876. My students, I want powerful conversations now. I don't want a fool argument tonight. If me hear fool argument, I'm going to say, not tonight, my darling, not tonight, sir. We will talk again. We want powerful arguments, right? It's 10:24, 11:24 in some people's areas. Lord God, it starts already. Hello, good night. Welcome to Partner Draw TV.
Windalco, actually, if Windalco did not make the spill, who did it? You were saying Rio Cobre. The correction, if Windalco did not do the spill, who did it?
I know Ambassador will be coming back very soon to respond to that question. We can't tell everything that we know. We're developing on our theories and our hypotheses. Tonight, we're not going to answer that question. I'm going to ask my students to go and probe some more. If Windalco did not do it, then who? Who did it? Good night, my student. We'll talk again soon. Anybody else out there? $1 million embezzled. 1 million US. And where are the Maroons? Where are the Maroons in their compound? Where are the Maroons? I want to hear from some Maroons tonight. You have 2 minutes. Where are the Maroons to speak tonight? Who did it? Hello?
Hello, good night.
Yes.
I have a question for the ambassador. I can't remember the name of the person you said that was on the FBI wanted list.
Mr. Masala?
Yes. To my knowledge, would this not be the second person in Jamaica's history, the second foreigner in Jamaica's history that has become involved in issues in Jamaica under the Jamaica Labour Party government?
Ambassador, would you want to take that question?
Let me make sure. She was kind of breaking up.
Maybe the ambassador or somebody else can correct me, but during the time of Edward Siaga, there was an Israeli mobster by the name of Eli Tisoni who became involved in Mr. Siaga's project called Spring Plains. I don't know how many people remember that, and I don't know how many people remember what Spring Plains was about. and how it came to involve drugs, guns, and the CIA. This is some serious issues, and I am really lying here and I'm contemplating how a known criminal becomes involved in Jamaica's issue. I did not know about it or let it slide, because to my knowledge, persons doing business in Jamaica, foreigners doing business in Jamaica, there are certain laws and rules.
Yes, but what the ambassador is saying, Michelle?
Right, so
what the ambassador is saying is that even though this fugitive was here, it wasn't a case that he was directly in Jamaica. Am I right, Ambassador?
No. He was also here in Accompong. He visited Accompong.
So he was in the Accompong?
Yes, he visited Accompong.
That's some serious situation, and it has some serious consequences for the country, because
we have witnesses. We are working on witness eye testimony and what would have happened, and based on witness eye testimony and the records that we are looking at, and the confirmation from Timothy McPherson. So unless he's leading us down a different road, we have to express the only truth that we know, and it was told to us that he would have visited Accompong. Now, whether that timeline is when the Interpol red alert would have been up, or it went after, that is something that we have to dig into to see the time when he was here, if he was on the red alert, right? Now, the thing is, he would have more than likely been under investigation just based on the magnitude of what is called the Wirecard scandal. So for your listeners, they can go and Google Wirecard in Germany. And
so go on Google, Michelle,
I know what it is. And all I
right, no, she's right. No, she's right in what you're saying.
There are some serious implications ahead for the country, and to be quite honest with you, it scares me. And Ambassador, I honestly feel a little scared for you as well, because based on what Andre said, what came out today, there are actually people going after Chief Curry, and I am not going to say much further. I'm just going to ask you to be safe. I'm going to ask Chief Curry to be safe. And, my prayers are with you guys. My prayers are with Accompong. And, I'm just...
Okay, Michelle. Thank you.
I'm sure, because I do understand the implications it has for the country and citizens of Jamaica at large.
All right, let me take a next call, Michelle. Thank you. Hello, good night.
Hi, Andre, good night.
Yes, good night.
Listen, I am called today. I just got home from work, but Andre, I want to tell you that.
You want to tell me that?
Okay, for holding up Jamaica and for giving us some sort of hope, some sort of clarity on things that are happening that we don't know the answers to. But you are there, and forcing you, I'm calling you all the way from North Carolina, and Jamaica is scared to come home.
We're gonna fix Jamaica so you can come home, man. We have a little time.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Bless you. We are the students to call in tonight. Had it been Donnelly, it should have allowed with a call in already with theory. Hello.
Yeah, Andre. When Chris Brown, one name, Will Smith box Chris, one name. You know what the man do? The man just be a man. And you are the professor here, So you can't, where you going with you are the professor. You can't take things too personal, man.
What you talking about?
And you are the professor.
Yeah, but what you talking about taking things personal?
What I'm saying, you can't, what the student, some of the students they go on with, you cannot take it. This is just the beginning.
No. Yeah, watch all that. Darling, You watch all life that you watch, and the present life, all life that you watch. And Maroon business with the pan tonight.
Alright. Good.
What's a banger and the lady I called me about last night life? Yes, when me I forgot you, Ambassador. Blessing student.
Yes, good night, Professor, and to the Ambassador.
Yes, good night.
I'm just one question here and a few things about the Constitution with the Maroons and the Constitution of Jamaica.
Okay.
Over the years, with the treaty that have been signed, what I'm seeing.
Over the years with the treaty that has been signed. Over the years.
The treaty that is the problem. For example, look on where the ambush are for community. If we understand what is a true sovereign state teacher, some of the conduct, and looking at the republic, chief them.
Hold on. You have to. All right. Your question, my friend. Wait. Your question is all over the place. Get directly to the question so we can answer it. What is the question tonight?
I'm saying what really happening, what I'm seeing really happening is based on the Constitution that was really signed within Maroon, even the Jamaican government itself, with the anti-polling, should really understand, which is clearly showing that they do not understand the treaty that they will sign. So even if Jamaica is to become a republic, the sovereignty.
So who are you saying the question? No, who are you saying don't understand the sovereignty?
I think the Jamaican government do not understand the sovereign government.
So you are saying that. So you are saying that the government of Jamaica doesn't understand the constitutionality of the sovereignty of the Maroons. Yes or no?
True, that's what I'm saying. What have been signed.
Okay. Ambassador, can you answer to that?
Yes, I believe that's what I was alluding to earlier. The sovereignty is basically deriving from the soil, the freedom of the soil. It's not to try to, as I said, to overthrow the government of Jamaica and to take over the government of Jamaica. So I think they are misinterpreting the stance on sovereignty. Sovereignty is being invoked because this is the only option we have to try and save the ecology and the water table and the poisoning of the river and everything else that is going on, because our ancestors left that our birthright within that treaty and allowed us to be able 300 years later to invoke it, and that's the true power of the treaty. So yes, I agree with your caller that, unfortunately at this time, the government of Jamaica is taking a stance to ignore the treaty rights, or mostly just to ignore the Chief Corey and his administration, because I could only be assuming at this point, which I don't like to do. I like to deal with hard facts, but just based on the posture of what is happening, it seems to me that nobody wants to sit at the table to have this hard discussion, or they may be afraid to have this type of hard discussion because they may be preempting that we have something in our mind because somebody else is telling them, some other foolishness. But, we're making ourselves clear to the world through these different platforms that it's very simple. When Chief Richard Corey, was installed into office, he was invited to the parliament within the first few months of becoming chief, and he would have met with the president of the Senate, Tom Tavares, and the House Speaker, at the time, with two other, Accompong representatives at the time who lived in, who were from Moortown. And they were, making their stance to say that, dialogue is needed. Unfortunately, that meeting, I think some people walked away from that meeting. I believe Tom Tavares got an idea that, you know, there was some form of internationalist approach, but understood, you know, why we were, you know, invoking the independence and the sovereignty. It wasn't to try to separate. It was
Okay, Ambassador.
It was because, one second, it was because of a very important fact. There's no the member of parliament for, you know, the area that you would consider Accompong is not present, you know. And if you're saying that the government of Jamaica is supposed to take care of Accompong, again, you know, 60 years, there's no water, there's no running water, there's no proper roads. So that's the fact.
Wow. All right, Ambassador, thank you for that. Other people want to call in. Ambassador, we want to keep the responses tight because
no problem.
we have
the callers. I got you.
There's a caller who was pressing. Let me. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you were calling the program.
Yes, sir.
Calling
from Accompong town.
You're calling from the Accompong?
Yes, sir.
What is happening in the Accompong? The views expressed today by the ambassador, are they true, or the ambassador is being a false man?
Well, the ambassador hitting the hammer on the head. Everything that the ambassador is saying is facts.
So you're saying that they're facts?
Everything is facts.
So who giving the trouble in the Accompong?
Well, so far, you know, when it comes down to politics play a big part worldwide, you know. And everything is, when I take money and power from someone, they will go the extra mile to create damage.
Wow.
Both to the child and also to the self-esteem of others, you know.
So you're saying that, one, the Accompong is under threat because past colonels are not having their way?
Exactly. When you check the ratio, you know, if you check the reality of life, the embassy speak about an account that hundreds of millions of US pass through that account. You know, and when you check it out, for someone to take that power from another man, what do you think will happen about that? Money is power, and power is money.
So you're saying, my friend, that the power has been taken away from them?
Exactly.
So because the power has been taken away from them, you have to turn off the phone because it's giving a bad reaction. So, Ambassador, all this time you just turn on the light? So the power is taken from them. That's what you're saying. So because the power has been taken from them, they're actually creating problems and turmoil in Accompong town.
Not just problem, but damages.
So what are the damages that they're doing in the Accompong?
All right. So one, when you check out, they are damaging the character of one, the chief Richard Curry, and the executive, and also the full council. You know,
I hear that some grill or some gate was taken down recently. Who did that?
It's not the grill. It's the entrance to the community. At the gate.
So who took down the entrance to the community, my friend?
So that was torn down by Sarah Williams administration, which they call the opposition of Accompong.
So you're saying that despite there being a government, there's equally an opposition?
That's what they want to. That's what they called it.
So you're saying that this opposition more powerful than even the PNP?
Well, I don't know how powerful the PNP is, you know, but from my understanding, there have never been an opposition in Accompong since.
Wow. Ambassador, do you have an official opposition in the Accompong?
We have not been made aware of its official status because the Constitution, the Maroon Constitution, does not give that leeway for an opposition to come against the current government. An opposition can be brought forward every 5 years at the polls, right? But
So you're saying there's no polls now, so there can be no opposition.
There's no official party that can be established to say that it will be recognized. Right, the only recognition that we will give people who act like this according to the Maroon Constitution would be a rebel, would be an unruly and an unlawful person, whether it's a citizen or a visitor, right? And according to that interpretation, there's how you deal with them is also referenced in the treaty based on the law of the land. It says in the 12th article of the treaty that Captain Kodra has the power to punish his own men how he sees fit. As a matter of fact, let me read it for you. And I'm gonna.
That is a violation of human rights, Ambassador.
No. I didn't say he's gonna kill them. He doesn't have the right to kill anybody or to injure anybody like that. When I say punish, you can tell somebody to go do community service. You see, this is why we have to be careful that our mind always go to the extent of cruelty, violence, because that's what we have been used to. That's what our society invokes upon us, that when somebody says I'm going to take care of him, they automatically assume the person means they're going to hurt or injure or kill him, right? No, if we have a constitution and we live under a constitution and someone says I'm going to take care of that person, it means that we're going to look to the law of the land and find out what is in the constitution that can be used to bring remedy to the situation, right? So I don't, the misinterpretations within the lexicon, I would say that we have to be careful of. But I want you to understand something though. This is not my words, Andre, and I know you are, a lover of the law. I want your readers to see this. This says what? Right? This is the archives, an official seal of the archives, right? The Office, the Jamaica Archives, and it says right here that this is a copy of the original, and it also has the embossed stamp right here, right? Okay, what this is, right? The embossed stamp. This is actually a copy of the original treaty that is on the laws of Jamaica. Let's make sure that you guys can see this. It says it at the top right there. Do you see that? Right. So it's on the books in the laws of Jamaica from 1739. So it's not something that we're just making up. And it says 12. Where is it? 13, 12. That Captain Kodjo during his life and the captain succeeding him shall have the full power to inflict any punishment they think proper for crimes committed by their men amongst themselves. So from that interpretation of the treaty, there is now a ratified Maroon Constitution with a Bill of Rights. Now, based on the classification of certain unlawful behaviors, or whether you are in open rebellion against the state, because there is no actual defined opposition party that can be formed through a chief's tenure. The only opposition is every 5 years at the poll. So therefore, Andre, in a society that we're trying to create, where a chief should have the opportunity to flourish within his 5-year tenure, it makes no sense to bring this tribalistic mindset into this form of government to try and have people tear down somebody for entire 5 years, because it's not just the person who suffers, it's the entire nation of people. It's all of the Accompong Maroons, because right now it's not just Chief Richard Curry or myself or members of the government that are having this issue. It's every single Maroon still has this issue. The world is looking upon us and saying, look at how you guys have drug yourself to the mud. Look at how you guys have all of these problems in your community. And the question comes back to what you're saying. How do you guys even start over? And the most we can say to you is that we have to use the power of the truth, Andre, and hope and trust that God will win.
All right. Thank you, Maroon guy. We'll talk again. You're here. Keep safe. The Accompong has spoken tonight, Jamaica. The chief has spoken. We're not getting a lot of calls because, you know, it's not mix up and prefer. Oh, somebody else calling. Hello? You have to turn off the thing. I'm not entertaining any call if I've made it clear with my ground rules that if you have the reaction on the phone, I'm going to end the call. Hello?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I'm like, meet up the prayer the next week. I'm going to meet up the next week. In a compound town.
Yeah, but if you want to meet the ambassador, I am sure once you go to their Accompong, you will find him. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, blessings. Hello, good night.
Yeah, one more thing, teacher, through the professor.
Mm-hmm.
With the case pending now in the court for September 30.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking on the case where to move the boundary lines and to reduce it, as the ambassador is speaking. I'm saying to them now, it is, we think about a petition with the Jamaican people in support of you for September 30. With boundary line be moving and reducing it. Because looking at it.
So you're saying that you believe that the Maroons should get a petition wherein which the boundary should not be removed and be lowered. It should keep on the original confines of the original borders.
Yeah, through the treaty of the signing.
All right, no problem. Response to that, Ambassador?
Yes, it's things that have been done already. I believe
because I know there were some treaties, petitions that were done previously.
Yeah. The Jamaica Environmental Trust and I believe the Southern Trelawney Cockpit Country Group would have also, through Hugh Dixon and a number of other professionals and environmentalists, they would have also rallied Jamaica, and they would have gotten over 15,000 signatures as is required to have the government take a look and review the petition. And we're still at this point, Andre, we're still having mining in Cockpit Country. If anybody takes a look at go over to Chief Richard Curry's Instagram page and actually take a look at the plethora of information in regards to the destruction of Cockpit Country. And then I challenge each and every single one of your listeners and the viewers around the world tonight to look at the Accompong news. I don't want to give them any credit whatsoever, but I know people love sus and them love back and forth, and and I'm not trying to validate these people at all. But if you actually look at the character and the principle of these people who are saying that they are Maroons, they have not at one point in this entire juncture of fighting us put up any defense of Cockpit Country. They have not made one post about the defense of Cockpit Country. They have only put out anything possible that can defame or bring some kind of disrepute to Accompong, right? So I just ask people to use their good sense.
Isn't there a GoFundMe for your account?
Yes, we do have a GoFundMe. I believe the link would right now be in Chief Richard Curry's bio on Instagram. So we do have a GoFundMe.
So if you want to support the class action that they're carrying against the government, you can, because they need to pay the lawyers. Am I correct? You can support the GoFundMe. Go on Chief Richard Curry Instagram page and you will see the link to find to support the GoFundMe. Yes, Jamaica. Carlos, good night.
Thank you so much, Andre.
From a blogger to another blogger. Thank you for bringing this story tonight. Manners and respect. That's all I have to say, my brother.
All right, Jamaica. Carlos, bless up. the ambassador will not just be here one time, you know. I'm going to dub him actually a friend of Partner Draw TV. So when the ambassador wants to give exclusive Jamaica, and if you want to find him on Instagram, the ambassador, his name is Anu Tafari. Am I correct?
Yes, Anu Tafari Zion L. So Anu L.
I'm taking a few more calls. Yes, hello.
Hello, good night, teacher.
Good night.
And good night to Mr. Ambassador.
Good night, ma'am.
So my take on this is, first of all, they started to defame Chief Curry in weapon disruption about some illegal gun and stuff like that. So I kind of know that this was coming. And furthermore, where the money is concerned, where that opposition was receiving, I don't think it will be fair for the Maroon people to be, I know, like, they're in need and stuff like that, and there's lots of needs all over, but it wouldn't be fair for the Maroon people. Back me up, Ambassador, if I'm wrong, to be, you know, gaining from it in no way, shape, or form, because it don't seem like it's a clean money.
Right.
If he's getting so much money into an illegal account in such a rapid and distributing it otherwise without no, you know, no hassle, no nothing about it. I don't think it was right for the Maroon people to be, you know,
to be exploited like that. All right, thank you for that question. All right, he will respond. Let me take a few more calls and then he'll respond in general. Okay, thank you. Yes, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I think I have the wrong number.
Who you want, ma'am?
Oh, this is Andre?
Yes.
Like,
what you said there?
you still lying?
Yes, how can I assist?
No, I wanted to know if the Maroons had any affiliation to Soros.
The Maroons have affiliations with whom?
Soros.
Who is Soros?
S-O-R-O-S.
Soros? Who are those people?
Right, so.
What kind of banger around this?
Andre, I believe she's talking about George Soros, because apparently the blogger Politics Rotch, you know, who has
George Soros.
Yeah, Soros.
I never understand when she says Soros. I thought it was an indigenous people.
No, I picked up on what she was asking. No, sister, is, you know, just to give you a straight, direct answer. I understand that has been floating around. I don't even understand why. If George Soros was to be funding the Accompong Maroons, meaning this administration, he would actually have some money if that was true. Just like if he.
So you're saying, you're saying, Ambassador, there's no truth to the argument that George Soros has affiliations with the present Maroon government.
That is correct. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, what is there? I mean, somebody bring something and show me other than, you know, a voice on, you know, YouTube who nobody knows, who people follow every morning to get their news. So, I mean, yes, you know, that person does a good job, but if anybody notices, you know, he has not made another video on the Accompong Maroons or Chief Richard Curry, you know, especially not even about this case. So, you know, we have to keep our eyes and ears open. But sister, the answer is no, just in a straight way.
All right, thank you. There's no affiliations with George Soros and the Accompong. All right.
All right, thanks.
What a banger, and the woman so affiliated with. I wonder if we're affiliated with George Soros. Scammer them there.
You know what,
hello,
Andre,
good night.
I think, anyways, I'll finish after.
Yes.
Mr. Ambassador, I think that your attorneys should approach the case not from a position, since the treaty itself does not mention.
Hold that second. Just hold that second. Hold that second. Hello?
Yes, hi. Good night, Andre, and your guest, the ambassador. I have a question in regards to the boundary lines for the land that they want to reduce. My question is, do they actually say they want to reduce it to whatever, to the reserve? Whatever they're trying to take from the Maroons and reserve them as the fund. The reserve resources. I want to know if the resources, the actual part of the land that they want to take over or to take from the Maroons, are the resources there, the richer parts on that land? Because nobody's going to take something that they're not going to have a good benefit from. Right?
So you basically want to know if the resources are stronger in which they're trying to cut the borders.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that question. All right. Ambassador, please to note that question. Can you say whether or not the borders in which that they want to cut, if those borders have stronger resources?
I'll remember. Okay.
All right. Let me go back to this student. Yes, you can start over now. Hello? Ra? Hello? You have to talk. Hello?
Yeah, Andre, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Jesus. I cannot take any call now.
That is being made by the hello, Andre?
Yes, you have to hurry up and talk, Ra.
Yeah. Now the approach being taken by the attorney is to say to the court, this is a sovereign people, but there is no documentation officially that proclaims the Maroon as sovereign. The treaty grants the Maroons autonomy to make their own government, make their own rules, but they are only doing this autonomously.
No, I disagree with you.
Yeah, completely disagree with you, sir.
Rule of
No.
right?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
No, where
no,
you
sir.
get that
Please.
wrong? That is confusing and totally wrong.
No, sir. Please do not tell.
So how could they be called or named the sovereign state of their compound?
They have done that themselves, but
no, it's not them give that declaration.
If you read the treaty, there is no word in the treaty
a treaty, Andre, let me help.
So I'm gonna ask you because me don't know about law much. But how does a treaty come about? Not between two sovereign states.
A treaty is made between two warring or among warring people. It's
no.
Right? No. There are conditions that are made. You do this, you don't do that, you don't do this, you don't do that, you live in peace, I live in peace.
The ambassador got film Bible for you, cause
if those things are not breached, then we are at peace. No, I think if the attorneys argue to the court as a matter of contract law that the government are the ones who are now breaching this contract, this treaty, they will have more success than to say to the court, we are a sovereign people without being declared such by some official.
But I'm going to ask you, Kura, if the Queen of England signed a treaty with this group,
saying that they're autonomous.
So you're saying that
word is not there. But that word is not there. That word autonomy. So you are placing that word there. You are placing, that is your sir.
Delegate its own funds.
The ambassador is responding. Just give the ambassador time. Respond, ambassador.
Thank you for your question, sir. But I think it's more of your forceful opinion that you're trying to give the people. And I'm going to have to cut you down short because ignorance to the law is no excuse. So please grab a pen and paper. And I'm going to read to you from the Black's Law Dictionary. This is the dictionary that all judges, all bar members, everybody who understands law need to understand the words. You are understanding the word from maybe an Oxford dictionary in regular common English language. When you're getting into the law, there's a completely different interpretation, which is why people go to school to understand the law and then they practice the law. Can I finish? So let me give you the definition.
Tonight?
Let me give you the definition of what a treaty is, because what you have said and sprouted out of your mouth is not facts. And you are one of those people that you're giving people a misinformation and they go and repeat that misinformation. So please try and erase the ignorance.
Ambassador, get to the point. Ambassador, can you get directly to the direct what a treaty is?
Right. A treaty, according to the law dictionary, is an agreement, a league, or contract between two or more nations or sovereigns formally signed.
Two or more nations are sovereigns.
Let me continue.
Raj, explain.
Let me continue. Formally signed by commissioners, properly authorized and solemnly ratified by the several sovereigns or the supreme power of each state. Full stop.
You hear that, Ra?
Okay, now.
Next question.
Right. So,
next question, Andre.
Of the Maroons. The Maroons is a set of people that were warring with these people here who were our slave masters, right?
Your slave masters.
You must decide the Maroons are an ache in our back. Let us make peace with these people. If the Maroons want to call themselves a sovereign people at that point, the crown did not consider it such, because within the treaty itself, the crown does not make mention that they are making a treaty with a sovereign set of people.
Andre, could you do me a favor, Andre?
The condition set forth is that they will give you these lands. You do not fight us anymore. You return back any slave any runaway slave that you catch. You return them. You become the patrollers for us. If we needed to catch slave, you go there with your.
That's not what the treaty says, sir. That's not what the treaty says, sir. That's not.
All right,
that's not what the treaty says. Andre, you have a load.
Thank you, Ra.
Andre, you have a load.
Okay, Ra, I have to cut you now. I have to cut you. I have to cut
Andre.
you. The ambassador will give his final rebuttal, but I have to cut you. Listen to the rebuttal now.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be short and quick. All right, this is
because this program running over 3 hours now.
This is the type of rhetoric, Andre, that continuously is regurgitated out of people's mouth without any knowledge of the facts. This man is giving you and speaking on behalf of the crown, and he is a Jamaican citizen. He can't speak on behalf of what King George was signing with Captain Cudjoe, right? He's only reading and being taught a syllabus that Maroons were slave catchers and all of that. And I'm saying no. When you read the chronological order of the treaty, it makes it very clear in Article 2 that each person has an opportunity, whether you want to go back to the slave plantation or you want to remain in subjection to Captain Cudjoe and become a Maroon. That means there were 2 jurisdictions here. Captain Cudjoe was not seen as a mere citizen. So the word, when you're saying autonomy, the word autonomy is not in the treaty. The mere fact of the word treaty not memorandum of understanding or some other type of agreement. It's a treaty of peace and friendship. The only terminology that is given to is between two sovereign nations. Show me another peace and friendship treaty in the world where one of the states is not a sovereign. I will wait, Ra, because you cannot show it to me. And the only reason
because are the indigenous Indians given their sovereignty in the United States of America?
Yes, they are. And it's under a document.
Are the native people in Brazil given their sovereignty?
Yes, they are. So Ra is one of those people who unfortunately continues to have this personal vendetta and grudge against the Maroons when you continue to speak that even when the truth is in front of your face, the truth is being spoken to.
Don't no more rebuttal because some other callers come to fix Ra. Good night.
Well, I didn't come to fix Ra, but good night, Professor. I have one question for the ambassador. Maroon IDs, can anybody buy or purchase Maroon ID?
Lord God, lady, why you opening up the back mangarang? I was sell Maroon ID.
Just a question I have.
You know what? And I
sale of it going around.
I don't know nobody. Who you know selling Maroon ID, lady? Call them.
Some crown wearing person with the initials of LA.
Mighty God! Is how much for a Maroon ID?
Ambassador, can you answer that question?
Ambassador, is there anybody approved to sell a Maroon IDs to people?
No one is approved under the full Maroon Council to be selling a Maroon ID that represents authority under the 1738 treaty. The sole power of the 1738 treaty rests in the custodianship and the beneficiary of the full Maroon Council of the sovereign state of Accompong. Therefore, the person who you would have mentioned that created some other name of a tribe, even though he can claim the lineal descent of a Maroon. Right. So even though that person can claim the heritage of a Maroon or the lineal descent of a Maroon, it made it very clear in the treaty that the 1738 treaty was to pass down from Captain Kodjo to his successors and posterity. So I am saying today, as it is reflected almost 300 years later, and has it been respected, that Accompong on the 6th of January recognizes after 284 years that Accompong's government is the custodian of that 1738 treaty. So there's no other authority that is being recognized. So all of those other IDs that people are giving out, they could just be, you could buy them if you want, caveat emptor, buyer beware. But you have to understand it does not give you any authority in Accompong. Accompong's government will not recognize that ID. I'm not saying that we're creating any division.
So what is it? What is the significance of such an idea, Ambassador?
Well, every government with a people, in terms of, nationality or citizenry, should have an account or census of their people. Here we are that, many people could be challenging us on our independence, our autonomy, or sovereignty, whichever way you want to style it. And I didn't mean to get frustrated with, the brother Ra that called, but when I hear nonsense and idiocy after such, push forward, and just to make it clear, Andre, just for Ra's purposes.
No, man, Ambassador, wait, man, another caller on the line. Wait a second. Don't answer Ra, man, when you're finishing up. Good night. Welcome to Partner Draw TV.
Yes, good night.
Yes.
This is Eddie. I have a quick question.
Yes, Eddie.
What does the Governor General play in this? Because if we have a treaty, right, with the Queen and Jamaica, would the Governor General be able to explain this treaty that everyone seems to have a problem with?
So he's saying, shouldn't the Governor General be able to explain the treaty and give a declaration on behalf of the Queen? That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
All right, thank you for that question. Can I respond to that question, Ambassador? Because I want it, because
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
Governor General only holds a ceremonial
The
duty. The
ceremonial
Governor
position,
General
right.
doesn't have a duty to govern the
Right.
laws of the land.
Correct.
He's just a signature. He cannot give prescription and give interpretations of the law. He has never
Correct.
done that. That is the duty of the Privy Council.
Correct.
So if it is a case that this class action that the Maroons have taken against the government is not settled in the courts, high courts in Jamaica, it would therefore be sent to the Privy Council and the Privy Council give a declaration. Once those declarations have been given, the government of Jamaica will have to abide by those declarations. Will the Queen rule in favor of the Maroons? There is a high probability, based on the declarations of 1738 of the Treaty of the Sovereign States established between the British government and the sovereign state of the Accompong. It simply means that, one, the government would have to uphold their bargains. Two, the borders established from the initial set, because in the laws of the Maroons and in their it says a part of the Constitution says and forever and forever. Am I correct? So
Yeah.
it means as long as children are being born and birthed in their Accompong and they're classified Maroons, the lands belongs to them. And the lands are not only confined to the cockpit country. There are lands in Trelawney, lands in Manchester, lands in St. Elizabeth, lands in St. James and Westmoreland. There is a lot of lands established, but what the ambassador is trying to say, because we have to finish up and wrap up soon. What the ambassador is trying to explain Jamaica and to the world. One, the boundaries have been set from the ancestral arrangements and that of the Queen. Am I correct, Ambassador? Yea or nay?
Correct.
Those boundaries must be respected, observed, and classified. Once those boundaries are observed, respected, and classified, there will be no disagreements. And the truth be told, the Maroons are not saying that they're not willing to work with the government, but they want dialogue.
Correct.
They want correspondence. They want what? Mutual beneficiary. They want you happy and equally the Maroons happy, but they're not willing to give up the sovereignty of their lands. Am I correct, Ambassador? I'm giving you the last 2 minutes, Ambassador, to speak to the globe, because I will need you to come back and to finish up this class. But let us talk, Ambassador. I'll give you your last 2 minutes.
Yes, appreciate it. So in closing, yes, you're absolutely right. The current class action lawsuit against the government of Jamaica, it was prescribed and expressed that we are asking for a declaration of the High Court here in Jamaica on the land without the prejudice to the sovereignty of the sovereign state of Accompong, that it will be interpreted under the Constitution of Jamaica that our land rights was embedded in the 1738 treaty, which should be respected due to the obligations of Clause 4 of the Jamaica Constitution. So because of that very fact, we are asking the government of Jamaica to understand what exactly is our posture and our position. Our posture and position, as you have just stated, Andre, is dialogue. Chief Richard Curry would have had a conversation with the former Prime Minister Bruce Golding on the radio, and even I believe at some point he also would have realized where we were coming from in respect to the land. So the sovereignty is what the Maroons have, the leverage on the table that the Maroons have to hold on to to bring, the necessary stakeholders to the table. And then in a way moving forward, whether it's in a republic or whether it's in some common mutual beneficial relationship, we can understand what that sovereignty looked like, or is it going to become, a autonomous, region, or can we actually have the same agreement that the United States of America has with the Indian tribes, being that we are also the same people and we are of the same family and same bloodline as well. So if the United States of America in their democratic society can find it as they're a first world country or superpower, but if they can find it within their laws to understand who the first peoples are, who the Native Americans are, and then I believe the government of Jamaica would just think, because Jamaica is a place, an island full of bright people. So even the people that are working in the government of Jamaica, who are police officers, JDF soldiers, and the legal minds and scholars, right? I'm asking you to think logically, openly, use your common sense and understand we have been here since 1738, even before that, because we were warring for such a long time. We kept the island from being an entire British colony, right? So we were able to at least have agreement with the British here. Unfortunately, we need to understand what is happening in history, and I'm closing on this, that some people did not take up the treaty offer. The treaty offer, according to Article 2, is that people had an option to become and take subjection to the Maroon jurisdiction, or you decided to remain on the plantation. In 1962, those people who remained on the plantation, as well as the planters, the plantation owners, were able to get their independence under a British-led government, right? So therefore, they have to take up all the agreements of the British, which the Maroon have agreement with the British. Hence, why the British High Commissioner would have ventured to Accompong twice. That is not for gimmicks, and I would charge any one of your listeners in closing, please, I implore you, I challenge you, go to Chief Richard Curry's page, look for the post with the British High Commissioner, and listen to the two speeches that the British High Commissioner said. Raw, I challenge you, go and listen to it, brother. He specifically says that Accompong is sovereign. He specifically says that the responsibility has now been passed in the remit of the government of Jamaica. It was expressed, there's no ambiguity. So therefore, we need to be a proper democratic society with the proper Bill of Rights of the people to be heard. And even though we are not just classing ourselves as Jamaican citizens, why? Because we have been allowed under the Fundamental Rights and Freedoms Act of Jamaica, enacted in 2011, or ratified, I should say. Ratified. We have the right to be declared not only as a Jamaican citizen, but as a person inhabiting the island with the same rights afforded to us under the Constitution. Therefore, we have the right of the political observance under that said Fundamental Rights and Freedoms Charter under Section 13. I yield.
That's where we leave it tonight, Jamaica. That's where we leave it tonight, Globe. To all who listened near and far, we have opened a box. We have unearthed and we have unleashed the truth of what is about to be a class action of native Jamaicans, the indigenous people in Jamaica, the Maroons, challenging the government, the Andrew Holness-led administration. Will this be where David will slay Goliath, or will Goliath slay David? We want to know. Where do we go from here? Did you enjoy the show tonight? I want feedbacks. We want to improve this show. Give us your honest feedbacks. Leave your commentaries. We will probe them. We will go through them, and we will improve the show. Until next time, until tomorrow night, walk good. Stay well. The Maroons will not be silenced. They're going to stand up. Chief Curry is going to take his people with him. I wonder if they're going to march to Jamaica House. Will they be marching on the Prime Minister like how Paul Bogle marched on Governor Eyre? Will they march? Will upheaval happen? I wonder if the rules were not governed in their favor. Will the Maroons do like what Chief Corjo did in his time to the British? Until next time, this is Partner Draw TV signing out. We have looked in, we have scoped, we have zoomed, and for sure, we're improving day by day. Remember, the platforms are there. If you want to support this movement, support in whatever way you can. But, my students, tomorrow night we have another interesting story to come. And until next time, Ambassador Anu Tafari, thanks for being here with us. And we look.
Thank you so much, Andre. Thank you, and congratulations on your
fruitful discussion. And we're sending an open invitation to your chief. We want the chief to join me so I can press him and drill him. Press him and drill him.
I'm pretty sure you'll take a review of this. I'll let him know. So I'm sure you heard. So thank you again.
Until and then,
congratulations on your platform. All right. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you guys. Bye bye. You keep well.
Jamaica.